multiverse is a tapestry of infinite realities, each with its own immutable laws. In one universe, power is measured in technology. Warp drives that bend space, shields that deflect energy, weapons that disintegrate matter at the quantum level. In another, power flows from within. Warriors who shatter planets with their fists, who move faster than light through sheer will, who transform the energy of life itself into devastating attacks. These universes were never meant to touch. But the fabric between dimensions is not as strong as the civilizations within them believe. When the subspace rift tore open near Earth, the heart of the United Federation of Planets, it wasn't a gentle meeting of realities. It was a violent collision. Alarms screamed across Starfleet command. Sensors registered energy readings that made no sense. Not matter, not antimatter, not any form of radiation their instruments could classify. Something was falling through the tear in space itself, pulled from a dimension where the very laws of physics operated on fundamentally different principles. And then, in a flash of golden light that briefly outshone Earth's sun, Son Goku arrived in the Star Trek universe. He tumbled through the vacuum of space, disoriented but unharmed. The rift sealed behind him instantly, stranding him in this alien cosmos. For a moment, Goku simply floated there, his ki-enhanced body naturally creating a protective aura that allowed him to survive without atmosphere. But something felt wrong. His energy, usually so abundant and easy to replenish, felt sluggish. The ambient life force he unconsciously drew from his surroundings, the thing every living being in his universe produced, was almost completely absent here. What the? Goku muttered, looking around at the unfamiliar star patterns. Where am I? Whis? Whis? His voice, of course, couldn't carry in the vacuum, but his ki-enhanced shout rippled outward as a pressure wave that Starfleet sensors registered as an impossible gravitational distortion. He tried to sense for Kai signatures, the method he'd used for decades to navigate and locate friends or foes. Nothing. Not empty space, nothing. But the absence of the very framework he relied on. It was like trying to see color in a world that only had black and white. These stars, this space, it all existed, but without the fundamental life energy that connected everything in his home universe. Okay, don't panic, Goku said to himself, though a bead of sweat formed on his forehead. Just gotta figure out where I am and find a way back. Maybe I can find someone strong to fight while I'm here. Even in crisis, his Saiyan nature sought the positive angle. But when he tried to lock onto any energy signature to use instant transmission, his technique for teleporting to any KI he could sense, he found nothing to latch onto. The technique simply wouldn't work. The dimensional constants were too different. His power was still there. He could feel the vast reserves of energy within his body, built up through decades of training and countless battles. But it was like being a fish in water that was slowly draining away. Without ambient ki to unconsciously absorb, he'd have to rely entirely on his internal reserves and whatever other energy sources this universe might offer. A blue-white planet hung in the distance. It looked similar to Earth, though the continental shapes were all wrong. Goku's enhanced vision could make out artificial satellites in orbit, metal constructions that gleamed with purpose. Civilization, people, maybe someone who could tell him where he was. He oriented himself toward the planet and prepared to fly when suddenly, space itself shimmered around him. On the bridge of the USS Enterprise D, Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood from his command chair, his expression grave as he studied the main view screen. The subspace anomaly had appeared without warning, a Class 12 spatial distortion that briefly registered energy outputs exceeding the Enterprise's warp core by a factor of 10,000. Impossible. Yet there it was in the sensor logs. "Mr. Data, report," Picard commanded. The android officer's fingers flew across his console with inhuman precision. "Captain, sensors detected a massive energy displacement consistent with a trans-dimensional breach. The anomaly has sealed, but there is a biological entity now present in high orbit above Earth." "Biological?" Commander William Riker stepped forward, frowning. "Not a ship?" "Negative, Commander. The entity is humanoid, approximately 1.75 meters in height. Mass 62 kilograms. However," Data paused, his yellow eyes widening fractionally, the closest he came to displaying surprise. "Captain, the energy readings from this entity are extraordinary. The being is generating an energy field consistent with..." He stopped, recalibrating his instruments. "Sir, the entity is surviving in hard vacuum without any visible protection. Its energy output alone would require a matter-antimatter reaction to sustain. Yet, sensors detect no such power source." Picard exchanged glances with his first officer. On screen, the view screen shifted to show Goku floating in space, looking around with obvious confusion. He wore strange orange and blue clothing that shouldn't survive vacuum exposure, his black hair jutting upward in gravity-defying spikes. Most impossibly, he appeared to be breathing, or at least not dying from exposure to space. "My God," Dr. Beverly Crusher whispered from her station. "That's impossible. No humanoid biology can survive those conditions." "Sir, the entity is moving," Lieutenant Worf reported from Tactical, his Klingon features set in professional wariness. "Trajectory suggests it's heading for Earth. Speed is accelerating beyond our sensor capacity to track accurately." Picard made his decision instantly. "Red alert. Hail Starfleet Command and inform them we have a potential first contact. Situation of unprecedented nature. Data, can we transport the entity aboard?" "Unknown, Captain. The energy field surrounding it may interfere with transporter lock. Attempting now." Data's hands moved across his console. "Transporter room reports, unable to achieve lock. The entity's energy signature is disrupting the annular confinement beam." Goku, unaware he was being scanned by technology beyond his comprehension, simply started flying toward the blue planet. He needed answers, and people meant answers. As he accelerated, he felt the strange sluggishness of his ki again. Normally, flight consumed almost no energy. He'd been flying since childhood. But here, each movement required conscious effort, like swimming through honey instead of water. Not hard, just inefficient. He was moving at a significant fraction of light speed when multiple beams of golden light suddenly surrounded him. Goku's combat instincts flared. He twisted mid-flight, dodging 3 of the beams with ease, but recognized they weren't attacks. They felt more like those weird sensing techniques some fighters used. One beam managed to brush his aura, and information flooded back to the Enterprise. "Transport attempt failed," Data reported. "However, we now have detailed bioscan data. Captain, this entity's cellular structure is unlike anything in Federation records. Density approximately 1,000 times standard humanoid baseline. Energy generation occurring at the cellular level through a process that does not match any known biochemistry. The being is, it appears to be a biological impossibility. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together." Picard stood, straightening his uniform. Impossible or not, that being is heading directly for Earth. Helm, intercept course. Maximum warp. We need to make contact before they reach the planet. "Aye, sir. ETA 12 minutes at warp 9. As the Enterprise leapt to warp speed, pursuing the strange warrior from another dimension, Goku suddenly stopped his flight. He sensed something, not Kie, but something. A concentration of life forces, artificial but purposeful, moving toward him faster than anything should move through space. He turned, waiting with characteristic patience and curiosity. When the massive starship dropped out of warp directly in his path, Goku's eyes widened with genuine delight. Whoa! Now that's a cool ship. It's huge. He waved enthusiastically at the Enterprise's view screen, having no idea whether anyone could see him or not. On the bridge, every officer stared in disbelief as the entity, the being that had just survived hard vacuum, dodged transporter beams, and flown at relativistic speeds, waved at them like an excited child. "Sir," Counselor Deanna Troi said softly, her empathic abilities working overtime. I sense no hostility from the entity. Curiosity, confusion, and excitement. It's almost like they're happy to see us. Picard finished. He took a breath. Open a hailing frequency. All standard first contact protocols. The view screen shifted to a two-way communication display. Goku's image appeared, and he smiled broadly. Hey, can you guys hear me? I'm kinda lost. I was training with my teacher and something went wrong, and now I'm here and I can't sense anyone's ki, and I'm not sure where here even is. You wouldn't happen to know the way back to Earth, would you? The bridge fell silent. The being spoke Federation standard perfectly, mentioned Earth, and claimed to be lost during training. Training that apparently involved surviving dimensional travel and hard vacuum. Picard stepped forward, his voice calm and diplomatic. I am Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are currently in orbit above Earth, though perhaps not the Earth you know. This is the year 2370 by our calendar. Can you tell us your name and where you come from? Goku scratched his head, a gesture so disarmingly human that it broke the tension slightly. 2370? Seriously? Man, I really went far this time. I'm Son Goku, and I'm from Earth too, but I guess a different one. This is pretty confusing. He looked down at the planet below. Looks kinda like home, but all wrong. Hey, do you guys have strong fighters on your planet? Maybe someone who could help me figure out how to get back? Data tilted his head, processing this flood of information. Captain, if his statement is accurate, we may be dealing with a parallel universe incursion. Quantum mechanics allows for infinite parallel realities, each with potentially different physical laws. Strong fighters? Worf repeated. His warrior's instinct peaked despite himself. Yeah. Goku's enthusiasm was infectious. I mean, anyone who could survive that trip must be pretty tough, right? Oh, but I should warn you. His expression became more serious. My power's not working right here. I'm only at about maybe 85% of normal? Something about this place makes it harder to maintain my energy. Feels like there's no ki anywhere. Only 85%? Riker thought. This being crossed dimensions, survived space, and dodged our transporter beam at reduced power? Picard made a decision that would change the Federation forever. Mr. Goku, on behalf of the United Federation of Planets, I would like to invite you aboard the Enterprise. We can offer you hospitality while we attempt to understand your situation and perhaps help you return home. Would you accept? Goku's face lit up. Really? That'd be great. How do I get inside? Do I just fly to that big circle part, or? We can transport you directly to our ship, Picard explained. Though our earlier attempts were unsuccessful due to your energy field. Oh, right. Goku powered down his protective aura, the golden shimmer fading from around his body. Immediately, the vacuum of space began affecting him, but he simply held his breath, giving the Enterprise a thumbs up. Transporter lock achieved, Data reported, amazed, bringing him aboard. As Goku's form dissolved into golden sparks of light, materializing in Transporter Room 3, no one on the Enterprise could have predicted the chain of events about to unfold. A Saiyan warrior, the strongest in his universe, had arrived in a cosmos built on diplomacy, technology, and collective progress. A man who solved problems with his fists was about to meet a civilization that solved them with words. The collision of philosophies was about to begin. Goku materialized on the transporter pad, the golden shimmer of the beam fading as he took solid form. He immediately gasped, drawing in a deep breath of recycled air. Whoa, that was weird. It felt like I was getting pulled apart and put back together. He hopped down from the pad, looking around the transporter room with wide-eyed fascination. This place is amazing. Everything's so clean and shiny. The transporter chief, a veteran officer named Lieutenant Henderson, stood frozen at his console. His instruments had registered something extraordinary during the transport. The entity's molecular structure had actually resisted the matter stream, forcing the transporter to use 3 times the normal power to complete the sequence. And now this person was examining the bulkheads like a tourist in a museum. Welcome aboard, sir," Henderson managed. "Captain Picard is on his way to greet you personally." "Captain? Is he strong?" Goku asked hopefully. Before Henderson could formulate a response to that peculiar question, the doors hissed open and Captain Picard entered, flanked by Commander Riker, Lieutenant Commander Data, and Lieutenant Worf. The Klingon security officer kept one hand near his phaser, his tactical instincts screaming warnings about the seemingly harmless human before them. Picard approached with practiced diplomatic grace, extending his hand. "Mr. Goku, welcome aboard the Enterprise. I'm Captain Jean-Luc Picard." Goku enthusiastically shook his hand, and Picard felt the restrained power in that grip. Like shaking hands with a duranium vice that was being very careful not to crush human bones. "Thanks for picking me up. That transporter thing is really cool. We don't have anything like that where I'm from." "Well, I can teleport, but I need to sense someone's ki to lock onto them. Can't do that here, though. No key signatures anywhere." Data's positronic brain cataloged every word, building a complex picture of impossible physics. "Fascinating. You refer to ki as though it were a fundamental force of nature. In our universe, we recognize 4 fundamental forces: gravitational, electromagnetic, strong nuclear, and weak nuclear. Are you suggesting your universe possesses a 5th? 5th? Goku scratched his head. "I don't know about numbers, but yeah. Ki is the life energy in everything. People, animals, planets, everything has it. You guys really don't have any? How do you power up or sense other fighters?" "We don't," Riker said carefully. "Humans in our universe don't possess any innate energy manipulation abilities. We rely on technology for our capabilities." Goku's expression fell slightly. "Oh man, that's going to make things hard. Without Kai, I can't use instant transmission to get home. And I'm going to run out of energy eventually if I can't absorb any from my surroundings." He perked up slightly. "But hey, you guys seem pretty smart. Maybe you can figure out a way to send me back." Picard gestured toward the corridor. "We'll certainly do our best. Why don't we adjourn to one of our conference rooms? I'm sure you have questions, and we certainly have many for you." As they walked through the Enterprise's corridors, Goku marveled at everything. The smooth walls, the carpeted floors, the various crew members they passed who stared openly at the strangely dressed visitor. Several officers subtly scanned him with tricorders as they passed, and each one reported the same impossible readings to their departments. An entity with power output that shouldn't exist in biological form. In Conference Room 4, Picard gestured for Goku to sit. The Saiyan complied, though he kept looking around at the viewports, showing the stars streaking past at warp speed. "You guys are really moving fast. This ship is incredible." "We're traveling at warp 9, Data explained, approximately 1,516 times the speed of light. Goku's eyes widened. "Seriously? Wait, how much faster than light is that?" He tried to calculate, gave up, and just grinned. "Doesn't matter, it's awesome. Though I think I can move faster than that when I really try. Different kind of speed though, I guess." Every officer in the room exchanged glances. Faster than warp 9? It should have been a boast, an impossibility. Yet their sensors had tracked this being moving at significant fractions of light speed through sheer biological capability. Picard folded his hands on the table, adopting his most diplomatic tone. "Mr. Goku, I hope you'll forgive the directness of this question, but our sensors indicate you possess capabilities that challenge our understanding of what's possible. You survived hard vacuum without protection, flew through space without propulsion, and resisted our transporter beam, a technology that disassembles and reassembles matter at the quantum level. In your universe, are such abilities common?" Goku shrugged good-naturedly. "I mean, I'm pretty strong compared to most people, but there are way stronger guys than me. My teacher Whis could beat me without even trying. And Lord Beerus, the god of destruction, is way beyond my level. Then there's the angels and the Omni-Kings." He trailed off, seeing their expressions. "You guys okay? You look kind of shocked." "God of destruction," Worf rumbled. "You speak of deities casually?" "Well, they're not gods like magical beings or anything," Goku explained. "They're just really, really powerful. Beerus destroys planets that don't meet his standards. It's his job. Keeps the universe balanced, I guess. The Omni-Kings are even higher. They can erase entire universes if they want." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The casual mention of beings who could destroy planets or erase universes made even the hardened Starfleet officers uncomfortable. Data leaned forward with scientific curiosity, overriding any fear. "If I may ask, Mr. Goku, what is your own destructive capability? For comparative analysis." Goku considered this seriously. Well, when I was a lot younger and way weaker, I could destroy a moon pretty easily. Nowadays, I try not to destroy planets because people live on them, you know. But I've fought guys who could blow up solar systems, and I've gotten strong enough to keep up. So I guess, if I really had to and powered up to my maximum, I could probably destroy a planet? Maybe more. But like I said, I'd never actually do that. Silence. Complete silence. Even Worf, a warrior born and bred, looked pale. Picard's voice was very controlled when he spoke. "Mr. Goku, I need to be certain I understand you correctly. You possess the capability to destroy a planet, yet you choose not to?" "Of course." Goku looked genuinely confused by the question. "Why would I destroy a planet? That's where people live. I fight to protect Earth and my friends, not to blow things up." "Well, sometimes things blow up during fights, but that's usually an accident or because the bad guy did it." Riker found his voice. "And these bad guys you mentioned, they also possess this level of power?" "Some of them, yeah. Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta. That's where I was born, actually. I'm a Saiyan, not human. We just look similar. Cell could have destroyed Earth if we hadn't stopped him. Majin Buu destroyed planets for fun before we reformed him. And Zamasu tried to wipe out all mortals across multiple timelines. Goku recounted these apocalyptic threats with the same tone someone might use to discuss yesterday's weather. Data's eyes flickered as he processed. Captain, if Mr. Goku's statements are accurate, and I have no reason to believe they are not given our sensor readings, we are speaking with an individual whose power output exceeds the destructive capacity of multiple photon torpedoes, possibly our entire weapons array combined. But here's the thing, Goku interjected, sensing the growing tension. I'm not here to fight or destroy anything. I just want to find a way home. And right now, I'm actually kind of weak because of the KI problem. My power's draining slowly without a way to recharge it naturally. He demonstrated by powering up slightly, a golden aura flickering around his body for a moment before he let it fade. See? Takes more effort here. In my universe, that would be nothing. The brief power display had caused every panel in the conference room to flicker, the ship's sensors screaming warnings about localized spatial distortions. Picard made a command decision. Mr. Goku, I believe you when you say you mean us no harm. However, you must understand that your presence represents an unprecedented situation for the Federation. We have protocols for first contact with new species, for spatial anomalies, even for encounters with powerful entities. But we've never encountered someone from a parallel universe with your particular combination of power and, if you'll forgive me, innocence. I get called naive a lot, Goku admitted, cheerfully. My wife says I'm terrible at thinking about complicated stuff. I just like to fight strong opponents and protect my friends. Everything else is pretty confusing. Counselor Troy, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. Captain, I sense complete sincerity from him. There's no deception, no hidden agenda. His emotions are remarkably straightforward: curiosity, slight worry about his situation, and genuine excitement about meeting new people. It's refreshing, actually. Worf grunted. Straightforward does not mean safe. A warrior with honor is still a warrior. You're a warrior. Goku perked up, looking at Worf with renewed interest. You look strong, different from humans. What species are you? I am Klingon, Worf replied with pride. We are a warrior race. Goku's face lit up like a child on Christmas morning. Really? A whole race of warriors? That's so cool. Are you guys strong fighters? Could we spar sometime? I promise I'll hold back. I'm really good at controlling my strength. The idea of sparring with someone who could destroy planets was so absurd that Riker actually laughed, though he quickly suppressed it. Worf, however, looked intrigued despite himself. The idea of testing himself against a true warrior, regardless of the power difference, appealed to his Klingon nature. Perhaps, Worf said carefully, though I suspect our definitions of holding back differ significantly. Picard stood, deciding to redirect the conversation before Worf actually agreed to fight their guest. Mr. Goku, here's what I propose. We're currently en route to Deep Space Nine, a space station near the Bajoran system. It serves as a hub for exploration and diplomacy. While we travel, our science officers will work on understanding the nature of your dimensional displacement. In the meantime, you'll remain as our guest aboard the Enterprise. Does this sound acceptable? Sure, Goku agreed readily. As long as I'm not causing trouble. Oh, but do you guys have food? I'm getting pretty hungry. Haven't eaten since before I fell through that rift. We have replicators that can produce any meal you desire, Riker explained. What would you like? Anything. I eat a lot, though, fair warning. Saiyan metabolism is really fast. How much is a lot? Data inquired with scientific precision. maybe 50 or 60 times what a normal human eats. Dr. Crusher, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward intently. That's impossible. The caloric intake required to sustain that level of consumption would require the matter-energy conversion we've been detecting. Data interrupted. Captain, I believe Mr. Goku's body operates on principles similar to our warp core. He's converting energy directly into biological fuel at the cellular level. It would explain both his enormous power output and his nutritional requirements. Goku just shrugged. I just know I'm hungry. Can we get some food? Picard nodded to Riker, who tapped his comm badge. Riker to 10 forward. Please prepare for a guest with substantial appetite. Commander Data will forward specific recommendations. As they made arrangements for Goku's accommodations and meals, none of them noticed the automated distress signal that had been transmitted the moment Goku materialized aboard the Enterprise. Standard Starfleet protocol. Any unprecedented energy signature detected near Earth triggered silent alerts to multiple agencies. The signal had reached Starfleet Command, where admirals debated the threat level of an entity that registered power readings off their scales. It had reached the Klingon Empire's border monitoring stations, where warriors perked up at tales of a being who could destroy planets, yet spoke of honor and combat. It had reached a cloaked Romulan warbird that had been conducting intelligence operations near Federation space, where a calculating commander saw opportunity in the chaos. And in the dark reaches beyond known space, it reached something else. A vast cubic ship that had been monitoring Federation communications for signs of unique biological distinctiveness worth assimilating. The Borg collective processed the information about Goku with cold efficiency, a being from another dimension, power output equivalent to their most advanced drones, biology that defied known physical laws. The collective reached consensus in nanoseconds. Adaptation irrelevant. Assimilation imperative. One cube altered course, its destination. The Enterprise's projected trajectory. 10 forward. The Enterprise's recreational lounge had never seen anything quite like this. Goku sat at a large table near the viewports, surrounded by a mountain of empty plates that would have fed a crew of 30. He was currently working on his 47th dish, a massive plate of replicated pasta that he consumed with the enthusiasm of someone who hadn't eaten in weeks rather than hours. Around him, off-duty crew members stared in fascination and horror as the Saiyan warrior single-handedly depleted the replicator's energy reserves. Guinan, the enigmatic hostess of 10 Forward, watched with an expression that mixed amusement with something deeper. Recognition, perhaps, or ancient memory. She had lived for centuries, seen countless species and phenomena. But this being from another dimension radiated something fundamentally different from anything in this universe. You know, she said, approaching Goku's table with another tray of food. In all my years, I've never seen anyone eat quite like you. Goku looked up, cheeks bulging with food, and swallowed. Sorry, am I eating too much? I can slow down if... No. Guinan smiled. Eat as much as you need. I'm just curious. Where does it all go? My body converts it into energy really efficiently, Goku explained between bites. Saiyan metabolism. We need a lot of fuel, especially after fighting or training. And right now, since I can't absorb Kie from the environment like normal, I need even more food to keep my energy up. Guinan sat across from him, her dark eyes studying him with unusual intensity. You're far from home. It wasn't a question. Goku paused, his cheerful expression faltering for just a moment. Yeah, really far. Different dimension far. I've been to other universes before, but those were connected to mine. This place is separate, cut off. I can't even sense my friends or family. He resumed eating, though with less enthusiasm. My wife Chi-Chi is probably worried sick. And Gohan and Goten, my sons, they don't know where I am. You have a family, Guinan observed gently. Yet you were training when this happened. Training to fight. To protect them, Goku said simply. There are always new threats, stronger enemies. If I don't keep getting stronger, I won't be able to keep everyone safe when the next danger comes. It's happened too many times before. His expression grew more serious. Frieza, Cell, Buu, Beerus, Zamasu, each one nearly destroyed everything. I have to be ready for whatever comes next. Before Guinan could respond, the ship's red alert klaxons blared. Goku jumped to his feet instantly, his warrior instincts flaring. Around 10 forward, crew members rushed to stations or secured loose items, their training evident in their swift, coordinated movements. Picard's voice came over the comm system. All hands, red alert. We are detecting 3 Klingon birds of prey decloaking directly ahead. They are hailing us. Goku's eyes lit up. The Klingons? The warrior race? Are they here to fight? Guinan stood smoothly. In a manner of speaking. You should get to the bridge. I suspect this concerns you. Goku nodded and simply vanished. One moment he was standing by the table. The next, he was gone in a blur of motion so fast that several crew members gasped, their eyes unable to track his movement. On the bridge, Picard had just settled into his command chair when Goku materialized behind him with a soft displacement of air. Every officer jumped, weapons half drawn before they recognized their guest. How did you? Riker began. I flew, Goku said matter-of-factly. Felt the ship shake and figured something was happening. What's going on? Worf recovered first, his professional demeanor reasserting itself. 3 Klingon birds of prey have intercepted us, Captain. They are transmitting on standard challenge frequencies. On screen, Picard commanded. The view screen shifted to show a broad-shouldered Klingon commander with a scarred face and ceremonial armor. His eyes blazed with barely contained aggression. I am Commander Korath of the House of Korath. We have monitored your communications regarding the warrior who fell from the sky. The Empire demands you release him to us immediately. The Empire demands no such thing, Picard replied calmly. Mr. Goku is a guest aboard this vessel, not a prisoner. He is free to make his own choices. Korath's lips curled into something between a sneer and a grin. Free? Then let him choose. Warrior. He addressed Goku directly, who had moved to stand beside Picard's chair. I am told you seek strong opponents, that you live for battle. The Federation are diplomats and scientists, weaklings who hide behind their technology. Come with us to the Klingon Empire, where true warriors will test your strength. We will give you the glorious combat you crave. Goku scratched his head. Well, I do like fighting strong opponents. Picard shot him a warning glance, but Goku continued. But I'm not really interested in joining anyone right now. I just want to figure out how to get home. Captain Picard and his crew are helping me with that. Korath's expression darkened. The Federation helps no one but themselves. They will study you like a specimen, dissect your power for their own purposes. We Klingons understand warriors. We honor them. Your strength deserves respect, not scientific analysis. That's not fair, Goku protested. These people have been really nice to me. They fed me, gave me a place to stay, and they're trying to help. I'm not going to just abandon them because you showed up. The Klingon commander's face split into a fierce grin. Loyalty to those who show you hospitality? You truly are a warrior of honor. But words are wind. Strength must be proven in combat. He leaned forward intensely. I challenge you, stranger from beyond dimensions. Fight me, and if you prove yourself worthy, the Empire will provide you with technology and resources beyond what these Federation fools can offer. We have ancient texts on dimensional travel, artifacts from conquered worlds. We can help you return home. Goku's interest was clearly piqued. You really have information about dimensional travel? Don't listen to him, Riker interjected. The Klingons want to use you as a weapon. They're trying to manipulate. Commander Riker, Picard said quietly but firmly. Mr. Goku is capable of making his own decisions. Goku looked between the view screen and the Enterprise crew, genuine conflict on his face. Finally, he addressed Korath directly. Okay, look, I appreciate the offer, and I'd actually love to spar with you. You seem like a strong fighter. But I'm not making any decisions about joining anyone until I know more about this universe and who everyone is. So how about this? We fight, just for fun, and then I'll decide whether to hear more about what you're offering. Korath laughed, a booming sound that echoed across the bridge. Excellent. A warrior who thinks before pledging his blade, wisdom and strength combined. We shall meet in neutral space. Prepare yourself, Dimension Walker. The transmission ended. Picard immediately stood. Mr. Goku, you don't have to do this. The Klingons respect strength, but they also respect cunning. This could be a trap. It's fine, Goku said with complete confidence. I can tell he wants a real fight, not a trick. Warriors can sense that stuff about each other. He grinned. Besides, I've been wanting to test myself since I got here. See how my power compares to what you guys have in this universe. Data consulted his console. Captain, the Klingon vessels are maintaining position 50,000 kilometers ahead. They appear to be waiting. Worf stepped forward, his expression conflicted. Captain, requesting permission to accompany Mr. Goku. As a Klingon, I understand their honor codes. I can ensure the challenge remains legitimate. Picard considered this. Mr. Goku, would you accept Lieutenant Worf as an observer? Sure, the more the merrier. Goku turned to Worf. Hey, maybe after I fight their commander, you and I could spar too? I'd love to see what Klingon combat techniques are like. Worf's eyes gleamed with something between respect and anticipation. It would be an honor. 10 minutes later, Goku and Worf materialized in the cargo hold of Korath's bird of prey. The Klingon ship's interior was darker than the Enterprise, lit by red and orange lighting that cast dramatic shadows. Battle trophies lined the walls, weapons, armor pieces, and what appeared to be skulls from various species. A dozen Klingon warriors surrounded them, each one armed and armored, their eyes fixed on Goku with predatory intensity. The Saiyan looked around curiously, unbothered by the hostile atmosphere. Cool ship. Looks way different from the Enterprise, more battle-focused. Korath strode forward, having shed his ceremonial armor for combat gear. He was massive, easily 2 meters, tall and heavily muscled. In his hands, he carried a batleth, the traditional Klingon blade that curved like a crescent moon. Welcome, warrior Goku. I am told you can destroy planets with your power. Today, you face the might of the Klingon Empire. Goku bowed respectfully, a gesture that clearly surprised the Klingons. Thanks for the challenge. I'll try not to hurt you too badly. And, just so you know, I'm still not at full power because of the KI problem. So this might not be as impressive as you're hoping. Korath's grin widened. Humility or arrogance? We shall discover which. He raised his batleth. By Klingon law, this combat ends when one warrior yields or cannot continue. There is no dishonor in surrender, only in cowardice. Do you understand? Got it. Don't kill you. Stop if you give up. Goku dropped into a fighting stance, loose, relaxed, but with the coiled readiness of a master martial artist. "Ready when you are," Korath roared and charged. The Klingon commander was fast, faster than any baseline human could hope to be. His bat'leth carved through the air in a complex pattern, each strike designed to kill or maim. He had fought for 30 years, bested hundreds of opponents, earned glory across a dozen star systems. Goku dodged every strike without moving his feet. His upper body swayed, twisted, and shifted with liquid grace. The bat'leth passed within centimeters of his face, his throat, his torso, and never once made contact. To the watching Klingons, it looked like Korath was fighting a ghost. "You're pretty good," Goku commented cheerfully, still dodging. "That blade technique is really interesting. We don't use weapons much where I'm from, but I can tell you've trained a lot with that." Korath snarled and increased his speed, his attacks becoming a silver blur. Still, Goku avoided every strike, his expression showing genuine interest rather than concern. Worf watched with his heart pounding. He had seen many warriors in his life, but Goku's movement was beyond anything in his experience. The Saiyan wasn't just faster. He was reading Korath's intentions before they manifested in action, predicting each strike through pure combat instinct. Finally, Korath leaped back, breathing heavily. "You mock me by not attacking." "Oh, sorry." Goku looked genuinely apologetic. "I just wanted to see your technique first. Okay, my turn." He stepped forward casually and threw a light punch, perhaps 1/10% of his actual power, carefully controlled to avoid killing. Korath raised his bat'leth to block. The blade shattered. The force of the punch continued through the broken weapon and struck Korath's chest, launching him backward 20 meters into the bulkhead. The metal wall crumpled from the impact, and the Klingon commander slumped to the floor, gasping for air. Every warrior in the cargo bay froze in shock. Goku walked over to Korath, concerned. "Hey, are you okay? I really was holding back. I swear I barely tapped you." Korath coughed, struggled to his feet with obvious pain, and then, impossibly, he laughed. It started as a wheeze and then built into a roar of pure joy. "Magnificent! One strike, and I am defeated." He grabbed Goku's arm with both hands, his grip fierce. "You are everything the reports claimed and more. The Empire must have you as an ally." I still haven't decided about that," Goku said, helping steady the larger warrior. "But that was a good fight. You're tough. Took that hit way better than I expected." The other Klingon warriors began to chant, beating their fists against their chests in a rhythmic salute. Worf joined them instinctively, honoring the combat they had witnessed. Korath released Goku and addressed his crew. "Witness this day. A warrior from beyond the stars has graced us with battle. His power is legend made flesh." He turned back to Goku. "I will not force you to join the Empire. Such dishonor would stain my house. But know this, the Klingon Empire offers you friendship and aid. We recognize strength, and we honor warriors. Should you need allies in this universe, you will find none more loyal than the Klingons." Before Goku could respond, an urgent alarm blared throughout the bird of prey. A Klingon officer shouted from the bridge, "Commander! Massive subspace distortion detected. Something is approaching at high warp. Configuration unknown." Korath's expression shifted instantly from jovial warrior to tactical commander. He activated a wall panel, displaying a tactical screen. What they saw made even the battle-hardened Klingons go silent. A massive cubic ship, green and black, bristling with technology that seemed to grow organically from its structure. It was dozens of times larger than the combined tonnage of the 3 birds of prey and the Enterprise combined. Worf's blood ran cold. Borg. Goku tilted his head. Borg? Who are they? Cybernetic organisms, Worf explained, his voice tight with barely suppressed fear. They assimilate entire civilizations, transforming biological beings into drones for their collective. They adapt to any weapon, any defense. They are the greatest threat in known space. Korath's tactical display showed the Borg cube altering course, directly toward their position. A transmission came through, cold and synthesized, lacking any emotion or humanity. We are the Borg. We have analyzed the entity designated Goku. Your biological and energy distinctiveness will be added to our own. Resistance is futile. Goku's expression changed. The cheerful warrior's smile faded, replaced by something harder, more focused. They want to assimilate me. What does that mean? They will capture you, inject you with nanoprobes that will transform you into one of them. Worf said grimly. You will lose your individuality, your memories, your will. You will become a drone in their collective, and they will use your power to assimilate entire worlds. For the first time since arriving in this universe, Goku's ki flared with intent. Not playful sparring, not casual curiosity, but the focused energy of a warrior who had identified a genuine threat. The temperature in the cargo bay dropped several degrees as golden light began to shimmer around Goku's body. Yeah, Goku said quietly, his voice taking on an edge that made even Korath step back instinctively. That's not going to happen. On the bridge of the Enterprise, organized chaos reigned. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, but the underlying tension was palpable. Every officer who had served during the Battle of Wolf 359 remembered the nightmares. The screams cut short as ships were torn apart. Friends and colleagues assimilated before their eyes. The unstoppable advance of the Borg cube as it carved through Starfleet's assembled fleet like a scythe through wheat. Borg cube is on intercept course, Data reported, his fingers flying across his console. Estimated time to weapons range, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Configuration matches Cube 632, last seen in the Delta Quadrant 3.2 years ago. Picard stood rigid in his command chair, memories of his own assimilation threatening to surface. He forced them down with iron will. Hail the Klingon vessels. We need to coordinate our defense. They're already responding, Captain. Lieutenant Worf's replacement at Tactical reported. Commander Korath is requesting immediate transport of Lieutenant Worf and Mr. Goku back to the Enterprise. Energize, Picard ordered. 2 shimmers of light materialized on the bridge, resolving into Worf and Goku. The Saiyan warrior looked different than he had before. His posture was more centered, his expression serious, and a faint golden aura flickered around his body like heat shimmer. Captain, Worf reported immediately. The Borg have specifically identified Mr. Goku as their primary target. They intend to assimilate him and use his power against... I heard. Picard interrupted. Mr. Goku, I need you to understand the severity of this situation. The Borg have assimilated thousands of species across the galaxy. They adapt to any attack after the first exposure. They will not negotiate, they cannot be reasoned with, and they will not stop until they have taken you. Goku's expression was grim. Captain, I've fought a lot of bad guys. Some wanted to conquer, some wanted to destroy, some just wanted power. But these Borg, they want to take away who people are. Turn them into mindless slaves. His fists clenched, golden energy crackling around them. That's something I can't allow. 1 Borg cube destroyed 39 Starfleet vessels at Wolf 359, Picard said quietly. 11,000 people died. Our weapons were useless. We barely stopped them last time, and only through a desperate gambit. He met Goku's eyes. I'm not questioning your power. But I need you to understand, this is not a sparring match. The Borg will not stop. They will adapt. They will overwhelm. Then I guess I'll have to hit them with everything I've got before they can adapt, Goku said simply. He looked out at the view screen, where the massive cube was now visible, growing larger by the second. How much time before they get here? 2 minutes, Data reported. Goku nodded. Okay, I'm going out there. What? Riker stepped forward. You can't just... Commander, Goku interrupted gently, but firmly. I appreciate that you guys want to help, but your weapons won't work on them. You said so yourself. And if they're coming for me, then me fighting them out there means you all stay safe in here. He smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. Besides, I work better with room to move. Don't worry, I've fought planet destroyers before. I can handle this. Picard studied the Saiyan warrior for a long moment, then made a decision that would have horrified Starfleet Command. Very well. But Mr. Goku, we will support you however we can. Data, can you monitor his vital signs and energy output? Yes, Captain, though the readings will likely exceed our instrument's measurement capacity. Do what you can. Picard turned back to Goku. Good luck. Goku grinned, some of his usual cheer returning. Thanks. Oh, and if I do something really bright and flashy, you might want to shield your eyes or turn your view screens down. Some of my attacks get pretty intense. Before anyone could ask what he meant, Goku simply walked through the view screen, or rather, phased through the transparent aluminum as if it weren't there. His ki eye protecting him as he transitioned from pressurized atmosphere to hard vacuum. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as Goku flew away from the Enterprise, positioning himself directly between the Federation starship and the approaching Borg cube. At this distance, he looked impossibly small, a single humanoid figure facing down a vessel that was over 3 kilometers on each side. On Commander Korath's bird of prey, the Klingon warriors watched with fascination and grudging respect. The fool positions himself as a shield, one officer muttered. Not a fool, Korath corrected sharply. A warrior. Watch and learn what true courage looks like. Goku floated in the vacuum of space, his golden aura providing life support and protection from the cosmic radiation. He could feel his power reserves, still depleted from the lack of ambient ki, still not at full capacity. But he had enough. He'd learned long ago how to make every ounce of his energy count. The Borg cube continued its inexorable advance, and suddenly Goku's enhanced hearing, functional even in vacuum through ki-enhanced perception, detected the transmission. We are the Borg. Biological entity Goku, you will be assimilated. Your biological distinctiveness will be added to our own. Your power will serve the collective. Resistance is futile. Goku's expression hardened. Yeah, I've heard that resistance is futile line before. From Frieza, from Cell, from Zamasu. They all thought they were unstoppable too. He dropped into a fighting stance, energy beginning to build around him. Here's the thing about me. I don't do futile. The Borg cube opened fire. Dozens of cutting beams lanced out, weapons designed to slice through starship hulls like butter. They converged on Goku's position. He didn't dodge. He didn't need to. The beams struck his aura, or it simply stopped. The energy dissipated against his ki field like water against a dam. On the Enterprise's bridge, Data's console lit up with readings that made no sense. Captain, the Borg cutting beams are rated at 5.1 megawatts per square centimeter. They are having zero effect on Mr. Goku's energy field. Okay, Goku said, more to himself than anyone. Let's see how tough you really are." He raised one hand, palm forward, and began to gather energy. A sphere of blue-white ki formed, crackling with power that made space itself ripple. This was just a Kamehameha, not even a particularly powerful one by his standards. But in this universe, where individual beings didn't generate this kind of energy. Kami. The Borg cube, recognizing a threat, diverted more power to its shields. The green force field that protected the massive vessel intensified, drawing energy from the cube's vast reactor cores. Haim. On the Enterprise, every sensor screamed warnings. The energy buildup was registering at levels that matched their warp core output. From one person, Data's hands flew across his console, trying to recalibrate instruments that were never designed to measure biological energy generation of this magnitude. Ha! The beam of blue-white energy erupted from Goku's hands, a column of pure Kai that seemed to tear through space itself. It struck the Borg cube's shields, and for a moment, the two forces met. The technological might of a civilization that had assimilated thousands of worlds versus the biological power of a warrior who had trained for decades. The Borg shields held, barely. Energy cascaded across the cube's surface, green shield energy sparking and flickering under the sustained assault. Inside the cube, thousands of drones worked in perfect synchronization to redirect power, reinforce the shields, adapt to this new form of attack. Goku maintained the beam for 10 seconds, then let it fade. He wasn't even breathing hard. Huh, those shields are tougher than I thought. Okay, let's try something else. The Borg cube's synthesized voice echoed across all communication channels. Adaptation complete. Protective shields now configured to defend against energy attacks of that frequency and intensity. Resistance remains futile. Yeah, but here's the thing, Goku said, his aura beginning to intensify. I've got way more than one frequency. He flickered forward, and by flickered, he moved at a significant fraction of light speed, closing the distance between himself and the cube in less than a second. The Borg sensors, despite their advanced technology, barely tracked the movement. By the time they registered his position, he was already at the cube's surface. Goku pulled his fist back and punched the hull. The impact created a shockwave that rippled across the entire 3-kilometer structure. Metal groaned and buckled. Inside the cube, entire sections lost power as conduits overloaded. Drones were thrown from their alcoves, and, for the first time in the collective's memory of this cube, chaos entered the hive mind. Structural integrity compromised in sections 47 through 94. A Borg voice stated flatly. Adaptation in progress? Goku punched again, and again. Each strike sent shockwaves through the massive vessel, tearing chunks of hull plating away, crushing internal structures. He was carving through the cube like it was made of cardboard. On the Enterprise bridge, the crew watched in stunned awe. He's destroying it with his bare hands, Riker breathed. Negative, Commander. Data corrected, his voice filled with something approaching wonder. He is destroying it with concentrated energy attacks channeled through physical strikes. Each punch is delivering approximately 4.7 terajoules of kinetic energy, equivalent to a full photon torpedo spread. From his fists, Picard said quietly, "Dear God." The Borg collective, facing a threat it had never encountered before, adapted in the only way it knew how. Overwhelming force. Hatches opened across the cube's surface, and hundreds of drones began to emerge, flying through space on magnetic fields, each one armed with assimilation tubules extended and ready. Goku saw them coming. So that's how you want to play it. He pushed off from the cube's surface and met the swarm head-on. What followed was a ballet of violence that defied belief. Goku moved through the Borg drones like a tornado through paper dolls. Each strike destroyed one or more drones, punches, kicks, elbow strikes, all enhanced with ki to devastating effect. The drones tried to adapt, tried to grab him, tried to inject him with their nanoprobes. None of them came close. His speed, even reduced by the lack of ambient ki, was still beyond anything the Borg had encountered. He was fighting at perhaps 30% of his maximum speed, conserving energy, and it was still more than enough. Drone after drone was reduced to floating debris. But the Borg kept coming. That was their nature, relentless, tireless, adapting with each passing second. They began to coordinate better, attacking from multiple angles simultaneously, trying to overwhelm him through sheer numbers. Goku spun in space, his aura flaring, and extended both hands. Okay, time to clear the field. Solar flare. Blinding light erupted from his body. Not an attack, but a technique designed to stun and disorient. The Borg drones, lacking protective membranes over their optical sensors, were momentarily overwhelmed. Their visual processors overloaded, leaving them blind. In that moment of confusion, Goku gathered his energy for a more powerful attack. His aura shifted from golden to blue-white as he compressed a massive amount of Ki into a single point between his palms. Let's see you adapt to this. Final flash. The beam that erupted from his hands was orders of magnitude more powerful than his earlier Kamehameha. It carved through the swarm of Borg drones, atomizing them instantly, and struck the cube's damaged section at full force. This time, the shields couldn't hold. The beam punched through, burning through deck after deck, destroying entire sections of the cube's interior. Explosions rippled across the massive vessel's surface as power conduits overloaded and reactor cores went critical. The Borg cube, badly damaged but still functional, began to retreat. It wasn't fear. The Borg didn't feel fear. It was tactical calculation. This entity was too powerful, too adaptable. Further engagement would result in the cube's destructions with minimal gain. Retreat is necessary, the collective's voice stated. Entity Goku represents a threat requiring recalculation. Goku started to pursue, but then hesitated. The cube was running. The threat was neutralized. Chase it down and destroy it completely, or let it go. Picard's voice came through on the comm frequency, somehow transmitted directly to Goku's ki-enhanced hearing. Mr. Goku, they're retreating. Let them go. You've done more than enough. Goku floated in space, watching the cube turn and enter warp, limping away at reduced speed. Part of him, the Saiyan part that craved battle, wanted to chase it down and finish the fight. But the wiser part, the part that had learned hard lessons over the years, recognized that destroying the cube might mean destroying all the people it had already assimilated. Okay, he said quietly, letting his aura fade. I'll let them go. He turned and flew back toward the Enterprise, leaving behind a debris field of destroyed Borg drones and chunks of hull plating from the cube. As he approached the starship, he could see the 3 Klingon birds of prey holding position, their crews undoubtedly watching in stunned silence. When Goku materialized back on the bridge via transporter, the entire crew was staring at him. Not with fear, exactly, but with a new understanding of what he truly was. Not just a powerful being, but someone who operated on a completely different scale than anything they had encountered. I didn't destroy it completely, Goku said, rubbing the back of his head. I figured there might be people inside who were assimilated and could maybe be saved. Was that the right call? Picard stood, walked over to Goku, and placed a hand on his shoulder. Mr. Goku, you just did what an entire fleet couldn't do at Wolf 359. You drove off a Borg cube single-handedly. Yes, you made the right call. Cool. Goku smiled tiredly. Hey, is there more food? That fight used up a lot of energy. Despite everything, the tension, the fear, the impossible battle they had just witnessed, several crew members actually laughed. The sheer normalcy of the request, coming from someone who had just punched holes in a Borg cube, was too absurd not to appreciate. I think, Riker said with a grin, we can arrange that. As the crew began to stand down from red alert, and the Klingon ships transmitted their congratulations and renewed offers of alliance, no one noticed the cloaked Romulan warbird that had observed the entire battle from a safe distance. On its bridge, Commander Sela watched the tactical replay with cold calculation. The Romulans had been monitoring Federation communications about this dimensional anomaly, this being called Goku. They had dismissed initial reports as exaggerations. No longer. Send a priority transmission to the Tal Shiar, Sela ordered. Tell them we have identified a target of the highest strategic value. Begin preparations for extraction. We will have this warrior, and with his power, the Romulan Star Empire will become the dominant force in the quadrant. Her science officer looked up nervously. Commander, did you see what he did to the Borg cube? How do we expect to capture something like that? Sela smiled coldly. The same way the Federation has always succeeded against superior force, through cunning, deception, and exploiting weakness. He cares about innocence, protects the weak. That compassion will be his downfall. She stood, her green eyes fixed on the image of Goku being welcomed back aboard the Enterprise. Plot a course to follow them. Maintain cloak and contact our agent on Deep Space Nine. We'll need someone on the inside when the time comes. The Romulan warbird, invisible to all sensors, began to shadow the Enterprise as it resumed course toward Deep Space Nine, a predator stalking prey that didn't know it was being hunted. Deep Space Nine loomed ahead, a stark contrast to the sleek elegance of Starfleet vessels. The former Cardassian mining station resembled a massive gear floating in space, its docking pylons extending like spokes from the central habitat ring. Beyond it, the Bajoran wormhole, a stable passage to the Gamma Quadrant, shimmered with ethereal blue light, occasionally pulsing as ships emerged from or entered its depths. Goku pressed his face against the viewport in his assigned quarters, eyes wide with wonder. That thing leads to another part of the galaxy? Just like that? No warp drive needed? Data, who had been assigned as Goku's unofficial liaison and guide, nodded. Indeed. The Bajoran wormhole is unique in known space, a stable, traversable wormhole maintained by entities known as the Prophets. It connects the Alpha Quadrant to the Gamma Quadrant, approximately 70,000 light-years distant. Prophets? Goku perked up. Are they strong? Their power is difficult to quantify, Data replied carefully. They exist outside normal space-time, perceive reality non-linearly, and have demonstrated the ability to manipulate temporal causality. In some ways, they may be comparable to the deities you mentioned from your universe. Goku's excitement was palpable. Really? Man, I'd love to meet them. Do you think they'd spar with me? Data tilted his head in that characteristic android manner. I suspect their concept of sparring differs significantly from yours. However, your presence may interest them. You are, after all, an anomaly, a being who should not exist within this dimensional framework. The Enterprise docked smoothly at one of DS9's upper pylons. As Goku, Data, and Captain Picard prepared to disembark, Worf rejoined them, having changed into a fresh uniform. The Klingon security officer had been unusually quiet since the Borg encounter, his warrior's mind still processing what he had witnessed. Mr. Worf, Picard addressed him. "You'll accompany us to meet with Commander Sisko. Given your experience with Klingon culture and Mr. Goku's unorthodox nature, your perspective may prove valuable." "Aye, Captain," Worf replied, though his eyes kept drifting to Goku with barely concealed fascination. They materialized on DS9's promenade, the station's commercial hub. Immediately, Goku was assaulted by sensory overload. Dozens of species moving through the crowded space. Shops selling everything from Bajoran jewelry to Ferengi entertainment programs. The smell of exotic foods from Quark's bar drifting through recycled air. "Whoa," Goku breathed. "This is amazing. Look at all these different people. Are they all different species?" "Indeed," Data confirmed. Deep Space Nine serves as a crossroads for dozens of species. Bajorans, humans, Ferengi, Cardassians, Klingons, and many others conduct business and diplomacy here. A passing Ferengi merchant did a double-take at Goku's orange gi, clearly calculating whether this oddly dressed human might be a potential customer. "Rare clothing, very distinctive. Perhaps you'd be interested in purchasing some local attire. I can offer you a very reasonable price." "No soliciting on the promenade, Groll," a firm voice interrupted. A striking woman in a Bajoran militia uniform approached, her auburn hair pulled back in a no-nonsense style. Major Kira Nerys, DS9's second-in-command, regarded Goku with cautious curiosity. "You must be the dimensional traveler. Commander Sisko has been expecting you. This way, please." As they walked toward Ops, the station's command center, Goku couldn't help gawking at everything. A group of Klingons near Quark's bar noticed him and immediately began whispering among themselves. Word of his battle with their warriors and the Borg cube having spread throughout the Empire like wildfire. They entered the turbolift, and Kira studied Goku openly. "So, you're the one who drove off a Borg cube by yourself. Forgive me if I'm skeptical. I've seen what the Borg can do." "It's true, Major," Picard confirmed. "I witnessed it personally. Mr. Goku's capabilities are unprecedented." Kira's expression remained neutral, but Goku caught the subtle shift in her posture. Increased wariness, hand drifting closer to her phaser. He'd seen that reaction before, countless times. Fear masquerading as caution. The turbolift doors opened to reveal Ops, a multi-level nerve center with consoles arranged in concentric circles around a central platform. Standing on that platform, overlooking everything with the bearing of a man who had shouldered impossible responsibilities, was Commander Benjamin Sisko. Sisko was an imposing figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with an intensity in his eyes that spoke of both compassion and steel will. He descended to greet them, and Goku immediately sensed something different about this man. Not power in the physical sense, but a weight, a presence that reminded him slightly of the Kais in his universe. "Captain Picard?" Sisko extended his hand. "Welcome back to DS9. Commander, may I introduce Son Goku, visitor from a parallel dimension." Sisko turned his full attention to Goku, and for a moment, the two men simply studied each other. Warrior recognizing warrior, leader recognizing leader, even across the vast gulf of their different backgrounds. "Mr. Goku," Sisko said, his deep voice measured. "I've read Captain Picard's reports. What you did to that Borg cube was nothing short of miraculous. On behalf of Deep Space Nine and Bajor, thank you for protecting this sector." Goku bowed respectfully, deeper than he had for anyone else so far. "Just doing what's right. Those Borg were gonna hurt a lot of people." Sisko gestured toward his office, a small room overlooking the promenade through large windows. "Let's talk privately." Once inside with the door closed, Sisko's demeanor shifted subtly. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed, his expression more guarded. "I'm going to be direct with you, Mr. Goku. Your presence here creates a massive diplomatic and security problem. Word is spreading fast. The Klingons are already calling you the Sky Warrior and treating you like some kind of legendary hero. The Romulans have undoubtedly learned about you by now. And if the Borg are interested, you can bet the Dominion will be too once word reaches the Gamma Quadrant." "The Dominion?" Goku asked. "An empire from the other side of the wormhole," Sisko explained. "They're expansionist, militaristic, and view all solids, non-shapeshifters, as inferior. If they learn there's a solid with your kind of power, they'll either want to recruit you or eliminate you as a threat to their founder's supremacy." Picard interjected, "Commander Sisko, I assure you we're working to find a way to return Mr. Goku to his home dimension. This situation is temporary." "Temporary problems have a way of creating permanent consequences," Sisko replied. He turned back to Goku. "I need to understand something. Captain Picard says you're operating at reduced capacity. What does that mean exactly?" Goku considered how to explain. "In my universe, there's energy everywhere, in people, in planets, in space itself. We call it ki. I can sense it, absorb it, use it to recharge my power. Here, there's almost nothing. It's like..." He struggled for a metaphor. "Like trying to breathe in a room with almost no air. I can survive, but I can't do it forever. I'm running on reserves, and they're draining slowly." "How long?" Sisko asked immediately. "Hard to say. Weeks, maybe months if I'm careful. Less if I have to fight something like that Borg cube again." Goku's expression grew more serious. "I don't want to cause problems for you folks. You've been really nice to me. If there's a way to send me home faster, I'm all for it." Sisko nodded slowly, then made a decision. "Chief O'Brien, our chief engineer, is one of the best in Starfleet at understanding transporter and dimensional mechanics. I'll assign him to work with you and the Enterprise's science team. But Mr. Goku, while you're here, I need you to understand something." He walked to the window overlooking the promenade. "This station sits at the edge of Federation space, next to a world that's still recovering from 50 years of brutal occupation. The Bajorans are a deeply spiritual people who have endured horrors you can't imagine. The wormhole, which they consider the celestial temple of their prophets, has made this sector strategically vital. We've already fought one war to protect it, and we're on the brink of another with the Dominion." Sisko turned back to face Goku directly. "Your power could tip the balance of galactic politics. Every major power is going to want you on their side. Some will offer friendship, others will try force. A few might attempt subterfuge. I need to know, when that pressure comes, what will you do?" The question hung in the air. Goku met Sisko's eyes steadily. "Commander, I've been in situations like this before. Different universe, same problem. Everyone wants the strong guy on their team. Here's what I've learned. I fight for people who need protecting. Not governments, not empires, not politics. Just people." He gestured out the window at the promenade below. "Those folks down there, humans, Bajorans, all the others, they're just trying to live their lives, right? If something threatens them, I'll help. But I'm not going to be anyone's weapon or join anyone's war. I'll make my own choices based on what's right." A slight smile crossed Sisko's face, the first genuine warmth he'd shown. "That's a better answer than I expected. Fair enough, Mr. Goku. You do what you think is right, and I'll do the same. Just try not to destroy my station in the process." "Deal." Goku grinned. "Oh, hey, I sensed something weird when we got here. That wormhole thing, there's something in it. Multiple somethings. They feel different, not like normal life forces. Sisko's expression shifted to something Goku couldn't quite read, reverence mixed with protectiveness. The prophets, they exist within the wormhole, outside our normal concept of time. They're the reason the wormhole is stable. Do they ever come out? I'd really like to meet them. They communicate sometimes, Sisko said carefully. Mostly with me, actually. They refer to me as the Sisko. It's complicated. Before Goku could ask more, the comm system chirped. Ops to Commander Sisko. We have an incoming transmission. Priority 1, Romulan Star Empire. Everyone in the office tensed. Picard and Sisko exchanged significant glances. On screen, Sisko ordered, returning to Ops with the others following. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a Romulan woman with sharp features, calculating green eyes, and an expression of aristocratic superiority. Commander Sella, though Goku didn't know that yet. Commander Sisko, Captain Picard, how convenient to find you both present. Her eyes fixed on Goku with predatory intensity. And you must be the anomaly everyone is discussing. Son Goku, the warrior from another dimension. Hi, Goku said, waving awkwardly. You're a Romulan, right? Someone mentioned you guys earlier. Sella's smile didn't reach her eyes. Indeed, I am Commander Sella of the Romulan Star Empire. I come bearing a diplomatic proposal. She paused for effect. The Empire has extensive records on dimensional phenomena, archives dating back thousands of years, including research from species we have assimilated into our culture. We may have the key to returning you to your home dimension. Picard stepped forward. Commander Sella, the Federation is already working on... The Federation, Sella interrupted smoothly, has been working on it for days with no results. We, on the other hand, have specific texts recovered from the ruins of Iconia, a civilization known for gateway technology that could span dimensions. Surely, Mr. Goku, you would prefer concrete results over vague promises? Goku looked between Sella's image and the Starfleet officers. You really have information that could help me get home? We do, but such valuable knowledge requires appropriate consideration. Come to Romulus as our honored guest. We will share our research freely, ask nothing in return except the opportunity to learn from you. Cultural exchange, you might say. Surely that's reasonable. Major Kira made a disgusted sound. Honored guest? Is that what you call hostages on Romulus now? Sella's expression hardened slightly. Major, the Bajoran militia would do well to remember that the Romulan Empire has no quarrel with your world. Yet, she turned her attention back to Goku. I offer you a choice, Mr. Goku. One that your Federation friends seem reluctant to present. You can remain with them, hoping their inferior technology eventually finds an answer. Or you can accept our assistance and potentially be home with your family in days rather than months. It was a masterful manipulation, appealing to Goku's homesickness, his desire to see Chi-Chi and his sons, while painting the Federation as either incompetent or deliberately delaying. Goku's expression grew thoughtful, and Picard felt his heart sink. The Saiyan was naive about politics, had admitted as much. Would he fall for this obvious trap? That's a really nice offer, Goku said slowly. Sella's smile widened, but I'm going to have to say no. The smile vanished instantly. What? See, here's the thing, Goku continued, his tone friendly but firm. Captain Picard and his crew, Commander Sisko and the people here, they've been straight with me from the start. Honest. Yeah, they're working on helping me, but they're not promising things they can't deliver. You, though, you just showed up and immediately made it sound like you've got all the answers, but you want me to go to your territory first. He scratched his head. I'm not great at politics, but I've met enough bad guys to know when someone's trying to trick me. Plus, I can kind of sense emotions. Not perfectly like some folks I know, but enough. You don't feel like someone who wants to help me out of kindness. You feel like someone planning something sneaky. Sella's face went through several expressions before settling on cold fury. You would reject the Empire's generous offer based on feelings? Yep, Goku said cheerfully. My gut saved my life more times than I can count. Right now it's saying, don't trust this lady. So I'm gonna stick with the people who've actually helped me so far. For a long moment, Sella simply stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she smiled again, but this time it was like watching a blade being drawn. How unfortunate. I had hoped we could resolve this diplomatically. But the Romulan Empire does not tolerate rejection well, Mr. Goku. You may come to regret your decision. Is that a threat? Sisko asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Merely an observation, Commander. The quadrant is a dangerous place. Accidents happen, especially to those who make powerful enemies. She nodded curtly. Jolin true. The transmission ended. The ops crew stood in stunned silence for a moment before Kira spoke. Well, that was about as subtle as a phaser blast to the face. She's definitely planning something. Agreed, Sisko said grimly. Increase security protocols. And Mr. Goku? He turned to the Saiyan warrior. That was well done. You may not understand politics, but you read people better than most diplomats I know. Goku shrugged. When you've fought as many enemies as I have, you learn to tell the difference between someone who wants a fair fight and someone who just wants to win by cheating. Worf spoke up, his respect for Goku clearly growing. The Romulans will not abandon their objective. They will attempt to take you by force if necessary. Let them try, Goku said, his tone light but his eyes hard. I beat the Borg. I can handle some sneaky folks trying to kidnap me. What none of them knew was that Sella's transmission had been deliberately public, broadcast on channels that multiple powers monitored. In the Gamma Quadrant, in a facility shrouded in secrets and guarded by genetically engineered soldiers, a group of shapeshifters watched the recording with interest. The founders of the Dominion, beings who could alter their form at will, who considered themselves gods among the inferior solids, exchanged thoughts through their great link. This Goku was powerful, dangerous to their control. But power could be redirected, controlled, made to serve the Dominion's will. Summon Wei Yun, the lead founder decided. This solid must be brought to heel or eliminated. Begin planning the operation. The web was tightening around Goku, and he didn't even realize it yet. Life on Deep Space Nine settled into a strange new rhythm. Goku, the interdimensional anomaly, became a fixture on the promenade. He was impossible to miss in his vibrant orange guy, a splash of color against the station's muted Cardassian steel and Bajoran ornamentation. Chief Miles O'Brien, with his no-nonsense Irish pragmatism, had taken Goku under his wing, leading a joint science team with Data and the Enterprise's engineers. Their workshop, once a spare cargo bay, now hummed with a Frankenstein's menagerie of technology. Starfleet sensor pallets, Klingon power cells, and ancient Bajoran artifacts that might hold the key to dimensional physics. Goku, for his part, was a patient but perpetually hungry lab assistant. He watched with genuine curiosity as the engineers worked, asking questions that were disarmingly insightful about energy flows and spatial geometry, and bafflingly naive about basic physics. So, you're trying to make a door to my universe? Goku asked one afternoon, hovering over O'Brien's shoulder as the chief wrestled with a bulky emitter array. In a manner of speaking, O'Brien grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. But it's more like finding the exact frequency of your home dimension and then nudging a door open. The problem is, the energy required is astronomical. More than the station's reactors can generate without causing a cascade failure. Can't I just supply the energy? Goku asked, holding up a palm where a flicker of ki danced. I've got a lot. Data looked up from his console. The energy type is the secondary complication, Mr. Goku. Your Kiao is an unknown quantum signature in our reality. To create a stable portal, we would need to convert it into a form of subspace energy the station systems can channel, then invert the polarity to match the dimensional resonance of your arrival point. The conversion efficiency would be approximately 0.04%. You would need to generate power equivalent to a supernova to produce a usable effect. Goku's face fell. Oh, so I can't just punch my way home. Not directly, O'Brien conceded, but a thoughtful look crossed his face. But that energy conversion problem, that's interesting. What if we didn't have to convert it? What if we could get the portal technology to accept ki as a power source? Data's eyes flickered. An intriguing hypothesis. It would require completely redesigning the emitter matrix from first principles, incorporating an understanding of a physics model that does not exist in our universe. So you're saying we need to learn his physics? Came a new voice. They turned to see Commander Sisko entering the cargo bay, a pad in hand. He gave Goku a nod. How's the work progressing, Chief? Slowly, sir, but we might have a new angle. O'Brien explained the key conversion idea. Sisko listened, then looked at Goku. You're our only source for this Kai physics. We need data, controlled tests. Can you show us more of what you can do? Not full power, obviously, he added quickly, glancing around the fragile station interior, but enough for our sensors to build a profile. Goku brightened. Sure, like a demonstration. I can do that. Just tell me where. The holosuites, Sisko decided. Contained environment, programmable matter. We can simulate a training ground, and our sensors can monitor everything. Quark's holosuites are the most versatile on the station. 30 minutes later, a small group assembled in Holosuite 3. Sisko, Data, O'Brien, Worf, and a skeptical Major Kira. Quark, the Ferengi barkeep, had been reluctantly persuaded to grant them exclusive access after Sisko promised favorable consideration on his next dozen permit violations. The suite was programmed as a vast, empty white plane under a blue sky, a neutral canvas. Goku stood in the center, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Okay, what do you want me to do first? Data consulted his tricorder. Begin with basic energy generation. Create a sphere of your ki as you did in space, but at minimal power. Goku obliged, cupping his hands. A baseball-sized orb of blue-white energy formed, humming with palpable power. Lights flickered in the holosuite, and the floor trembled. Data's tricorder emitted a sharp whine. Fascinating. Energy readings are coherent, but defy standard wave-particle models. It appears to be a self-contained pocket of altered space-time. Now project it, O'Brien said, gesturing to a holographic target that appeared 100 meters away. With a casual flick, Goku sent the energy sphere zipping across the plane. It struck the target and detonated with a flash and a crump of displaced air, leaving a smoldering crater in the holographic ground that took several seconds to res out. Kira's eyes were wide. That was minimal power? Next, speed and agility demonstration, Data said. What followed was a blur. Goku moved from one end of the massive suite to the other in an eye blink, leaving after images in his wake. He flew complex patterns, dodged holographic projectiles that moved at hypersonic speeds and executed maneuvers that defied inertia. Worf watched, his warrior's heart soaring even as his mind struggled to comprehend. This wasn't just speed. It was a redefinition of motion. The final test was durability. At Sisko's hesitant suggestion, they calibrated a holographic phaser bank to mimic a level 16 discharge, enough to vaporize titanium. The beams lanced out, striking Goku where he stood, arms crossed, a small smile on his face. The energy washed over his unmoving form, his ki aura glowing faintly as it dissipated the attack. Not a hair was out of place. The demonstration ended. The holosuite doors slid open, revealing a crowd of off-duty officers and curious civilians who had felt the vibrations and power fluctuations. At the front was a young Bajoran girl, maybe 10 years old, clutching a data slate. She darted forward before anyone could stop her. "Mr. Goku," she called out, her voice filled with awe. Goku, who had been discussing waveform harmonics with Data, turned and smiled. "Hey there. My name is Yara. I saw you fight the Borg on the news feeds. You saved all those ships." She held up her slate, which displayed a child's drawing of a golden-haired figure punching a green cube. "You're a hero." Goku knelt down to her level, his expression softening in a way Sisko hadn't seen before. "Thanks, Yara. But the real heroes are people like Captain Picard and Commander Sisko. They're the ones who protect everyone every day. I just helped out." "But you're so strong," Yara insisted. "The strongest ever." "Strength isn't just about power," Goku said, his tone surprisingly gentle. "It's about knowing when to use it and when to be kind. Your people, the Bajorans, you're really strong too. I heard about what you went through. That's a different kind of strength, and it's just as important." The little girl beamed, and a murmur of approval ran through the Bajorans in the crowd. Kira's guarded expression softened a fraction. Goku's naive honesty had just accomplished more than any diplomatic speech. As the crowd dispersed, Sisko pulled Goku aside. "That was well done, but we need to talk. My office." Once seated across from Sisko's desk, with the wormhole glittering in the viewport, Sisko got straight to the point. "The Romulans aren't the only ones who've taken an interest. I've received formal inquiries from the Klingon High Council, the Cardassian Detapa Council, and even a veiled communique from the Ferengi Commerce Authority. They all want access to you. The Klingons frame it as a warrior's pilgrimage. The others are less poetic." "I already said I'm not joining anyone," Goku reiterated. "It's not that simple anymore," Sisko said, leaning forward. "You demonstrated power today. That makes you a strategic asset. In the eyes of galactic powers, you're not just a person, you're a natural resource, a weapon. And if they can't have you, some will decide no one can." Goku's cheerful demeanor faded. "You think they'll try to kill me?" "I think," Sisko said carefully, "that the Dominion, in particular, will see you as an existential threat. The Founders believe solids are chaotic, violent, and need to be ruled. You are a solid with power that rivals their gods. You don't fit their narrative. They will either try to control you or eliminate you." Before Goku could respond, the door chimed. It was Dr. Julian Bashir, DS9's chief medical officer, looking uncharacteristically grim. "Commander, sorry to interrupt. I need to speak with Mr. Goku, privately." Sisko raised an eyebrow but nodded. Goku followed Bashir to the infirmary. The doctor activated a privacy screen and gestured to a biobed. "Please, sit. I've been analyzing the scan data from your demonstration, cross-referenced with the Enterprise's initial bioscans." Bashir's usually enthusiastic tone was gone, replaced by professional concern. "Mr. Goku, you said your energy reserves are draining because you can't absorb ambient ki, correct?" "Yeah, like a battery that can't recharge." "It's worse than that," Bashir said, pulling up a holographic display of Goku's cellular structure. "Your body isn't just using energy, it's cannibalizing itself. On a microscopic level, your cells are consuming their own structural proteins and mitochondrial DNA to sustain your ki production. You're literally burning your life force to fuel your power." The graphics showed a time-lapse simulation. Over weeks, Goku's robust cellular structure began to degrade, like a star collapsing in on itself. "At the current rate, you don't have months. You have perhaps 3 weeks before the damage becomes irreversible. After that, your power will fail completely, followed by multiple organ failure. You'll die." The words hung in the sterile air. Goku stared at the simulation, his face unreadable. He'd faced death countless times, but always in battle, always with a chance to fight back. This was a slow, invisible erosion. "Is there a cure?" he asked quietly. "In your universe, presumably, you'd just absorb energy and heal," Bashir said. "Here, we'd need to find an equivalent energy source, something your biology can metabolize. We're looking at modified plasma infusion, direct neutron irradiation, all highly experimental and dangerous." Goku took a deep breath, then smiled, a smaller, more determined version of his usual grin. "Well, I've been in tight spots before. At least now I know the clock's ticking. Makes finding a way home more urgent, huh?" Bashir was taken aback by his resilience. "You're not frightened?" "Sure I am," Goku admitted. "I don't want to die here, away from my family. But being scared doesn't help. It just wastes energy." He stood up, clenching his fist. A faint golden aura sparked, then sputtered erratically before dying. He looked at his hand, a flicker of true worry finally crossing his face. "And I can't afford to waste any." The revelation changed everything. Cisco accelerated the research, allocating more station resources. The Klingons, upon hearing of Goku's condition through Worf, who felt honor-bound to inform his people, sent a data packet containing ancient scrolls on life force and dimensional anchors, a gesture of respect that bordered on reverence. But in the shadows, others moved faster. That night, as Goku slept in his guest quarters, a section of the bulkhead near the ceiling shimmered and dissolved, not burned through, but disassembled at the molecular level. A figure, clad in sleek black armor, face obscured by a helmet, dropped silently into the room. In its hand was a hypospray, filled with a neurolytic pathogen designed to induce instant paralysis, keyed to Goku's unique DNA, stolen from the infirmary's databases. The assassin moved toward the sleeping form, weapon raised. Golden eyes snapped open. Goku wasn't there. He was already standing behind the intruder, having moved from his bed in a microsecond. His hand closed around the assassin's wrist before the hypospray could fire. "I was wondering when someone would try this," Goku said, his voice calm. Even depleted, his speed was unimpaired. "Romulan, right? You guys really don't give up." The assassin struggled, but Goku's grip was like duranium. With his other hand, Goku reached up and plucked the helmet off, revealing the cold, furious face of a Romulan man. Security alarms blared as Odo, DS9's shape-shifting security chief, and a team of Bajoran guards burst in. Odo took in the scene, his liquid features hardening. "A Romulan Tal Shiar operative. How did he get past our scans?" "His armor," Goku said, examining the discarded helmet. "It's not just cloaking, it feels null, like it absorbs energy around it. made him almost invisible to my senses too. He handed the assassin over to the guards. Odo fixed the Romulan with a stern look. "You'll have plenty of time to explain in a holding cell." As the prisoner was led away, Sisko arrived, his face like thunder. "They attempted an assassination on my station." He turned to Goku. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Goku said. But he was looking at his hand again, where his ki had sputtered earlier. The quick movement had cost him. A fine sheen of sweat coated his brow. "But they're getting bolder. Next time might not be a solo operative." Sisko knew he was right. The Romulans had played their covert hand and failed. Their next move would be overt, and they wouldn't be the only ones. The attempt sent a shockwave through the station's diplomatic channels. In response, an unexpected offer arrived, not from a government, but from a person. It was a simple, unencrypted message from the Gamma Quadrant, delivered via a Jem'Hadar warship that decloaked just long enough to launch a comm probe before vanishing. The message played on Sisko's viewer, showing a Vorta named Weiyun, his smile serene, his voice smooth as silk. "Greetings, Commander Sisko. And to you, Son Goku. The Dominion has observed recent events with interest. We understand you are in distress. We also understand the narrow-minded powers of the Alpha Quadrant see you only as a tool or a threat. The Dominion is different. We offer a solution. We possess medical technology capable of halting, even reversing, your cellular degradation. We also have research into dimensional theory that far surpasses anything in the Federation archives. We invite you, Mr. Goku, to journey to the Gamma Quadrant as our guest. No tricks, no coercion, merely a mutual exchange of knowledge and aid. Consider it. The Dominion seeks order, not conquest. And order cannot be built with a dying hero. We await your reply." The message ended. The room was silent. The offer was frighteningly tempting, precisely targeted at Goku's two greatest needs: a cure and a way home. Goku looked at the frozen image of Weiyun's benevolent smile, then at Sisko's deeply troubled face, and finally at the glittering menace of the wormhole on the viewport. The most dangerous invitation had just been delivered. The Dominion's offer lay on the table like a venomous gem. Beautiful, potentially priceless, and almost certainly fatal to touch. In the wardroom, the senior staff of Deep Space Nine and the Enterprise had assembled. Sisko, Picard, Riker, Data, Worf, Kira, Odo, and Dr. Bashir. Goku sat among them, uncharacteristically quiet, listening to the debate swirl around him. "It's a trap," Kira stated flatly, her arms crossed. A more sophisticated one than the Romulans' clumsy kidnapping, but a trap all the same. The Dominion doesn't do charity. Major Kira is correct in her assessment of Dominion motives, Data said. However, their claim of advanced medical and dimensional research may not be false. The Dominion's technological base, particularly in genetic engineering and spatial manipulation, is largely unknown but presumed to be formidable. "Formidable enough to save my life?" Goku asked, his voice quiet. All eyes turned to him. "Dr. Bashir says I'm dying. You all are working as hard as you can, and I appreciate it more than I can say. But what if they do have the answer? What if saying no means I never see my family again?" Picard leaned forward, his expression one of profound sympathy. "Mr. Goku, no one here would blame you for wanting to pursue every avenue for survival. But you must understand the cost. Accepting Dominion aid would mean placing yourself in the heart of their territory. You would become a guest who cannot leave, a specimen to be studied, and ultimately, a weapon to be wielded against everything the Federation stands for." "But what if I could leave?" Goku countered, a spark of his old stubbornness igniting. "What if I get there, they fix me up? I learn what I need, and then I come back. I'm pretty good at getting out of tight spots. Odo, who had been silently observing, finally spoke, his gravelly voice carrying unusual weight. You would not be getting out. The Dominion's control is absolute. The Vorta manage, the Jem'Hadar enforce, but the Founders rule. They are shapeshifters, beings of immense age and patience who believe solids are a disease to be controlled. They would dissect your abilities down to the quantum level, not to help you, but to understand how to replicate you, control you, or destroy anything like you. Your very existence is an affront to their belief in their own superiority. Goku met Odo's gaze. The changeling's words were harsh, but Goku sensed no deception, only grim truth. You sound like you know them pretty well. I was one of them, Odo said, and the room stilled. I am a founder who was lost as an infant and raised among solids. I know their minds. Their offer is not salvation. It is the beginning of assimilation of a different kind. The discussion stretched on, arguments about risk, ethics, and galactic politics. Goku listened, but his mind was working on a different problem. He wasn't a strategist, but he was a fighter, and fighters assessed their opponents. The Dominion was a threat. The Romulans were a threat. Sitting here waiting to weaken was not an option. An idea, simple and dangerous, began to form. Later, alone with Sisko in his office, Goku laid it out. Commander, I need to train. Sisko blinked. Train? My power's fading because this universe is empty. But what if it's not completely empty? What if there are pockets? Different kinds of energy I haven't figured out how to use yet. Goku's eyes were alight with determination. On my way here, I felt something when I passed by your warp core. And that wormhole of yours, it feels alive in a way nothing else here does. I need to learn to tap into that, to adapt. To do that, I need to push my limits. To force my body to learn new tricks, I need a real challenge. Sisko understood immediately. You want to use the station's facilities to train at high intensity, to try to trigger some kind of breakthrough. Exactly. And if the Romulans or someone else attacks again, I need to be ready. I can't afford to be slow or weak, not even for a second. Sisko saw the logic and the desperation in the plan. All right, we'll use the holosuites. We can program increasingly difficult combat scenarios. But Mr. Goku, given your condition, Dr. Bashir will have to monitor you closely. If your cellular degradation accelerates, I'll stop, Goku promised. I'm not trying to die faster. I'm trying to find a way to live. The training regimen began the next day. It was unlike anything Starfleet had ever recorded. In Holosuite 3, now heavily reinforced with extra power conduits and shield generators, Goku faced off against holographic opponents of escalating power. At first, they were simulations of Jem'Hadar soldiers, then Borg drones, then creative amalgamations of various alien threats. Goku fought, but he fought differently. He wasn't just overpowering his foes, he was experimenting. He tried to sense the holographic energy matrix, to draw from the holosuite's power systems. He focused on the strange, slippery energy of the warp core, which Chief O'Brien piped in through a simulated conduit. The results were mixed. During one session, as he battled a horde of holographic hydrogen hunters, he managed to draw a trickle of plasma energy into his key attack. The resulting Kamehameha had a strange, purple-tinged edge and caused the holosuite's emitters to scream in protest before overloading. It's not compatible, he grunted afterward, breathing heavily as Bashir scanned him. It's like trying to run a water engine on oil. It works, but it gums everything up and takes twice the effort. His cellular degradation, however, had not accelerated. In fact, Bashir found something curious. Your cells are struggling to adapt. They're trying to create new metabolic pathways. It's causing stress, but it's not the pure cannibalization we saw before. It's as if the exposure to different energy types is forcing an evolution. See? Goku said, grinning through his fatigue. I just need the right kind of push. The push arrived from an unexpected quarter. Worf approached him after a training session. Your methods are unorthodox, but your will is that of a true warrior. The Klingon Empire has sent something you may find useful. He presented Goku with a data crystal. It is not technology. It is the Kivort, the warrior's heart. It is a training ritual, a mental discipline used by our greatest mystics to harness inner strength when no outer strength remains. It teaches control, focus, and how to find power in emptiness. Goku accepted the crystal with reverence. That night, instead of sleeping, he accessed the data. It contained not schematics, but philosophies, meditative katas, and breathing exercises. It spoke of finding the battle song in silence and the strength in surrender. To Goku, who had trained under King Kai and Whis, the concepts were strangely familiar, yet alien. He began to practice, sitting cross-legged in his quarters, seeking the emptiness the Klingon mystics described. Meanwhile, the political pressure intensified. The Romulans, stung by their failed assassination, filed a formal protest with the Federation Council, claiming Goku was an unstable dimensional weapon that DS9 was recklessly harboring. The Klingon Chancellor defended Goku's honor publicly, deepening the rift between the Empire and the Romulans. The Cardassians, sensing opportunity, offered neutral mediation, and through the wormhole, the Dominion waited. A week into his intense training and meditation, Goku experienced his first breakthrough. He was in the holosuite, meditating in a simulation of the Klingon volcano where the Kavort ritual was traditionally performed. He wasn't trying to draw external energy. He was trying to become perfectly still, to find the core of his own power without the cushion of ambient ki. He reached inward, past the raging river of his Saiyan battle lust, past the cheerful simplicity of his personality, down to the quiet, unshakable center that had always been there. The part of him that loved training, that protected his friends, that never gave up. There, in that stillness, he felt it. Not ki, not plasma, not warp energy. It was something more fundamental, a vibration that underpinned reality itself. Subspace, the fabric through which warp travel was possible. In this universe, it was everywhere, a shimmering ocean of potential energy. His ki, a foreign frequency, had been repelled by it, unable to latch on. But now, with his consciousness perfectly centered, he didn't try to grab it. He simply resonated. A hum filled the holosuite, a sound below hearing. The lights dimmed. Goku opened his eyes. A new kind of aura flickered around him, not golden, but a translucent silver blue, like starlight on water. He held up his hand, and a tiny, stable sphere of this silvery energy formed above his palm. It didn't crackle like ki. It sang. He released it gently. It floated across the room and dissolved against the wall. The holosuite systems didn't overload. The power draw was minimal, but the energy felt profound. It was a trickle, but it was a trickle from an infinite well. He had learned to drink from a new ocean. Elated, he rushed to find Chief O'Brien and Data. When he demonstrated the silver energy, Data's positronic brain nearly stalled. Fascinating. You have achieved a symbiotic resonance with the subspace domain. This is not conversion, it is harmonization. Your unique energy signature has found a way to vibrate in concert with the foundation of our space-time. What does that mean for getting him home? O'Brien asked, already running calculations. It means the energy barrier is lower, Data said. If Mr. Goku can generate this harmonized energy, he could potentially power a dimensional aperture himself without needing our reactors. The efficiency would be near unity. It was the first real hope they'd had. But the breakthrough came with a cost. The intense focus and new energy manipulation had drained Goku differently. He wasn't burning his cells, but he was mentally exhausted in a deep, profound way. Bashir ordered him to rest for 24 hours. It was during this forced rest that the Romulans made their move. They didn't send an assassin or a warship. They launched a weapon of a different kind. Information. A priority data burst, source untraceable, arrived at every major news outlet and government in the quadrant. It contained sensor logs, expertly edited, of Goku's battle with the Borg cube. But the logs were doctored. They showed Goku's attacks causing catastrophic subspace fractures, damaging the very fabric of reality. The narration, voiced by a calm, authoritative scientist, a Romulan agent, explained that the dimensional anomaly was a cancer, and each use of his power risked causing an irreversible subspace tear that could destroy solar systems. Panic, carefully cultivated, began to spread. On DS9, the public mood shifted overnight. Where Goku had been viewed with awe or curiosity, now suspicious glances followed him. Petitions from Bajoran religious groups demanded he be moved away from the celestial temple, the wormhole, fearing his presence would anger the prophets. The Federation Council, spooked by the Romulan propaganda, sent a directive to Cisco. Stabilize the situation, reduce risk, consider relocating the asset. Cisco was furious. They're giving in to fear-mongering. This is exactly what the Romulans want, to isolate him, to make us give him up out of panic. Goku, watching the news reports in the infirmary, felt a weight heavier than any enemy's blow. He had fought to protect people his whole life. Now, he was being painted as the threat. The irony was bitter. It was Captain Picard who found him there, staring at a screen showing a talking head demanding his removal. The first time I met the Borg, Picard said quietly, I was assimilated, made into Locutus. I was used as a weapon against my own people. When I was freed, some looked at me with the same fear they're showing you. They saw the monster I had been, not the man I was. Goku looked at him. How did you deal with it? By proving them wrong, by being better than their fears, and by trusting that those who knew me would stand by me. Picard placed a hand on his shoulder. We are standing by you, Mr. Goku. Do not let their fear become your reality. Their resolve was tested sooner than anyone expected. A Bajoran spiritual leader, Ranjan Kaleen, arrived on the station with a contingent of followers, demanding to speak with the false prophet of destruction. Cisco, trying to maintain peace, allowed the meeting in a public atrium on the promenade. Kaleen, an elderly man with intense eyes, confronted Goku before a crowd. Your energy is an abomination to the natural order. The prophets have shown me visions, ripples of darkness spreading from you, threatening the temple. You must leave, or you will bring doom upon us all. Goku listened respectfully, then said, I don't know your prophets, sir, but I know what it's like to want to protect your home. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm just trying to get back to my own. Lies! Kaleen shouted, whipping the crowd into a frenzy. Your very presence is a wound. You must be... He never finished. A shimmer in the air behind Kaleen resolved into a Jem'Hadar soldier, materializing from a personal cloak. Two more appeared on the upper walkways. They didn't attack the crowd. They leveled their phased Polaron rifles at Goku. The Dominion hadn't sent an invitation this time. They had sent a retrieval team. Chaos erupted. As security forces scrambled and the crowd screamed, the lead Jem'Hadar spoke, its voice a guttural rasp. "The Founders have commanded your presence. You will come." Goku dropped into a fighting stance, the new silver-blue aura flickering uncertainly around him. He was exhausted. The crowd was in danger, and 3 Jem'Hadar soldiers were between him and the fleeing civilians. He had no time to recharge, no time to strategize. The fight he had been training for had found him at his weakest, time compressed. The promenade, a moment ago filled with the murmur of commerce and the heated rhetoric of protest, became a war zone of screams and disruptor fire. The 3 Jem'Hadar moved with the chilling, synchronized efficiency of their kind. They ignored the panicking civilians, their insectoid eyes fixed solely on Goku. Their orders were clear: acquisition of the target. Collateral damage was irrelevant. Goku's mind, honed by 1,000 battles, snapped into hyper-clarity despite his fatigue. His first priority wasn't the soldiers. It was the crowd. A Bajoran family, a mother and 2 children, was frozen directly between him and the lead Jem'Hadar. He moved. Even drained, his speed was a blasphemy against physics. He appeared in front of the family in a blur of silver-blue light, his body between them and the impending shots. The lead Jem'Hadar fired. Goku didn't dodge. He caught the brilliant green bolt of Polaron energy on his crossed forearms. The impact roared through the atrium, shattering a storefront window. The energy crackled against his aura, sizzling and spitting. It hurt in a way phaser fire hadn't, a deep, cellular disruption, but it didn't penetrate. He grunted, shoving the dissipating energy aside. "Run!" he yelled at the stunned family, who scrambled away. The other 2 Jem'Hadar fired from the upper walkway, their shots converging. Goku vanished from his spot, appearing above one of them in a flash. He drove a hammer fist down on the soldier's shoulder. There was a sickening crunch of reinforced bone and armor, and the Jem'Hadar crumpled. But its companion was already turning, rifle swinging like a club. Goku blocked, but the force was immense. Jem'Hadar were bred for strength. The blow staggered him backward, his heels screeching on the deck plating. He was strong, but he was operating on fumes, and the Jem'Hadar fought with a relentless, drug-fueled fury. On the upper level of ops, alarms blared. Cisco's voice cut through the chaos over the comms. "Security to the promenade. All non-essential personnel, evacuate. Seal sections 7 through 12. Odo was already there, his body elongating as he flowed down a stairway, reforming into a towering, muscular form to grapple with the injured Jem'Hadar. Worf and a security team poured in from another entrance, phasers set to maximum. "Take them alive if possible," Worf barked, firing a stunning shot that the 3rd Jem'Hadar shrugged off, its personal shield flaring. Goku, locked in close combat with the lead soldier, realized the problem immediately. These weren't holograms. He couldn't cut loose. A full-power Kamehameha would tear through the station's hull. A punch at full strength could send the Jem'Hadar flying through multiple bulkheads, killing who knew how many people behind them. He was a planet buster fighting in a china shop, and the china was full of innocents. He had to be precise, surgical. It was a type of fighting that required immense control, and control required energy he didn't have. He dodged a vicious swipe of the Jem'Hadar's combat blade, feeling the wind of it against his throat. He countered with a palm strike to the soldier's chest, channeling a tiny, focused pulse of his new silver energy. It wasn't meant to destroy, but to disrupt. The effect was immediate and strange. The Jem'Hadar's personal shield flickered and died. The soldier itself convulsed, its white eyes widening in what might have been shock. The harmonized subspace energy had interfered with its bioengineered systems at a fundamental level. Interesting, Goku thought, but he had no time to analyze. The soldier, shieldless but undeterred, lunged again. This time, Goku caught its wrist, twisted, and used its own momentum to slam it face first into a support pillar. The metal dented and the Jem'Hadar went still. He turned, panting, to see Worf and Odo subduing the last soldier. The fight was over in less than a minute, but the damage was done. The promenade was a wreck. Smoke curled from scorched walls. Bajoran civilians stared at Goku with a new kind of terror, not the abstract fear from the news reports, but the visceral terror of someone who had just been in the crossfire of a battle between titans. Ranjan Kaleen, who had been cowering behind a kiosk, stood and pointed a shaking finger at Goku. "See? The violence follows him. It is a sign. He is a vortex of destruction." The words hit Goku harder than the Jem'Hadar's blows. He looked at the frightened faces, the damaged station, the stunned security team. His shoulders slumped. The silver aura around him guttered and died. In the aftermath, in Sisko's office, the atmosphere was grim. Dr. Bashir ran a scanner over Goku, who sat slumped in a chair. Adrenaline crash, compounded by severe psychic and physical fatigue. The cellular degradation hasn't spiked, but his reserves are in the red. He needs complete rest, or the next fight might kill him. "Rest isn't an option," Sisko said, his face like stone. He had a PAD in hand, showing the latest from the Federation Council. The Dominion attack has been spun by Romulan media as Goku attracting invasion. 3 member worlds are now formally requesting he be removed from Federation space. The Council is issuing an executive order. Goku is to be transferred to a Starfleet research and containment facility at Starbase 234 within 48 hours. "A prison," Picard stated coldly. "A secure location?" Sisko corrected, his tone dripping with contempt for the euphemism. "They're scared. The Dominion just waltzed through our security to try to grab him. The Romulans have half the quadrant convinced he's a walking supernova. They want him somewhere they can control the narrative and the risk." "And what do you think, Commander?" Picard asked. Sisko looked at Goku, who was listening quietly, his usual vibrant energy absent. "I think we're about to make the biggest mistake of our lives. We're going to hand the most powerful being we've ever encountered, a being who has shown nothing but goodwill, over to bureaucrats and fear. And in doing so, we will prove to him that our principles are just pretty words." He turned to Goku. "The order gives me 48 hours to arrange transport. That's 48 hours we still have you here." Goku looked up, his eyes tired but clear. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking you had a breakthrough. You touched subspace. You harmonized with it. Data believes you could power a dimensional aperture yourself." Sisko leaned forward. "We scrap the safe, slow research. We go for broke. We use every scrap of data we have. Starfleets, the Klingon scrolls, even the scans from the Dominion attack. We build a prototype gate in the largest cargo bay we have. And in 40 hours, we try to send you home." The audacity of the plan left the room silent. "The failure rate would be incalculable," Data finally said. "And the energy discharge, even if successful, could destabilize the station's core. We'll route all non-essential power, shunt it through the main deflector," O'Brien said, a wild, determined light in his eyes. "We'll use the wormhole's own subspace gradient as a natural amplifier. It's mad, but it might just be mad enough to work." "And if it fails?" Kira asked. "Then a Starfleet transport arrives to take him to a cage," Sisko said. "I'd rather risk a noble failure than guarantee a cowardly sin." The decision was made. All other projects on DS9 were suspended. Every engineer, every scientist worked around the clock. The Klingons, informed by Worf, sent a team of engineers who arrived on a fast courier ship bringing volatile singularithium crystals meant for warp core breaches. For a warrior's exit, their commander said. Goku spent the time not fighting, but meditating. In a quiet corner of the temple on Bajor, arranged secretly by Major Kira, who had seen the truth in his eyes during the fight, he practiced the cavort rituals. He sought that perfect harmony again, not as a trickle, but as a river. He needed to be the power source, the key, and the lock all at once. As he meditated, his mind drifted. He thought of Chi-Chi's scolding warmth, of Gohan's serious eyes, of Goten's infectious laugh. He thought of Bulma's brilliance, Vegeta's stubborn pride, and Whis' patient teaching. The love and the longing weren't a weakness. They were the coordinates he was trying to reach. They were his key signature. During his final meditation, a presence brushed his mind. It was not a thought, not a voice, but an impression, a sense of timeless observation, of multiple perspectives focused as one. He opened his eyes. He was still in the temple, but the air seemed to shimmer. Before him, for a fleeting second, stood a figure that was both Benjamin Sisko and not. A being of solid light, its forms shifting and stable all at once. The Sisko is the vessel the impression came. You are the song. Your melody is foreign, but your rhythm is true. The gateway will be loud. We will hold the silence. Then it was gone. The prophets had spoken, or at least they had noticed. Back on DS9 in Cargo Bay 2, the device was taking shape. It was not elegant. It was a nightmare sculpture of Federation conduits, Klingon plasma injectors, Bajoran crystalline resonators, and a central platform surrounded by a ring of the singularithium crystals. It looked less like a Stargate and more like a bomb. The theory is sound, Data explained to Goku as they made final checks. We will create a localized subspace tear, using the crystals to focus the instability. You must then flood the tear with your harmonized energy, imprinting it with the vibrational signature of your home dimension. Think of it as shouting your address into a hurricane. We are merely giving you the megaphone. And if I shout wrong or not loud enough? Goku asked, staring at the crackling, sparking apparatus. Then the tear collapses or sends you elsewhere, O'Brien said grimly. Or the feedback vaporizes this half of the station. No pressure. 39 hours after Sisko received the order, they were ready. The station was on minimal power, all energy routed to the bay. The Enterprise and 2 Klingon birds of prey held position just outside, ready to provide emergency power or, if things went catastrophically wrong, to evacuate the station's crew. Goku stood on the platform, wearing a simple black undersuit O'Brien had rigged for him. Around him, the senior staff gathered for what might be a farewell. We have calculated a 15-second window of stability once the tear opens, Data said. You must act within it. Sisko stepped forward. No matter what happens, Mr. Goku, it has been an honor. You've reminded us that strength is meaningless without a good heart to guide it. Picard nodded. Make your peace with this universe and reach for your own. Worf placed a fist over his heart. Kapla's warrior, fight well even now. Goku looked at them all, his eyes shining. He didn't have grand words. He bowed deeply from the waist. Thank you for everything. I won't forget you. He turned and walked to the center of the platform, taking a deep, centering breath. He closed his eyes, seeking the quiet core, the harmony. The silver-blue aura began to glow around him, faint at first, then building. Initiating sequence, O'Brien yelled from behind the safety console. The singular lithium crystals ignited, screaming with brilliant white light. The space inside the ring began to twist, to tear. Not like a door opening, but like a wound in reality. A chaotic, swirling vortex of non-color and fractured light. The bay shuddered. Alarms blared as the station's structural integrity field strained. "Now, Goku!" Sisko shouted over the roar. Goku's eyes snapped open. They were no longer black, but glowing pools of liquid silver. He raised his arms, not in a fighting pose, but in an embrace. From his core, he pulled not just his own energy, but the harmonic resonance he had learned. He didn't force it, he sang it. A torrent of pure, silvery energy, beautiful and terrible, erupted from him and poured into the raging tear. It wasn't a blast, it was a flood. The chaotic vortex struggled against it, then began to change. At its center, the madness parted, and for a sliver of a second, they saw, or thought they saw, a glimpse of a blue-green planet, a familiar sun, a sense of immense, vibrant life force. Home. But the strain was too much. The crystals began to overload, cracking. The station-wide lights flickered and died. The tear wavered, the image fading. "He's not going to make it!" O'Brien cried. "The power is collapsing." Goku gritted his teeth, pouring everything he had, every last ounce of his being, into the stream. He was dimming, his aura fading. It wasn't enough. Then, something shifted. From the direction of the wormhole, a wave of calm, immense power washed through the station. It didn't come through cables or conduits, it just was. It stabilized the faltering tear, reinforced the harmonics of Goku's energy. The prophets were holding the silence. The gateway solidified. A stable, shimmering portal now hung in the ring, showing a clear view of Earth, his Earth, from orbit. Goku, exhausted to the point of collapse, looked back one last time. He saw Sisko's nod, Picard's smile, Worf's raised fist. He smiled, a tired, grateful, triumphant smile. He turned and, without a sound, stepped through the portal. The moment he passed the threshold, the gateway imploded with a soundless flash. The crystals turned to dust. The machinery went dark. Cargo Bay 2 was left in sudden, deafening quiet, filled only with smoke and the smell of ozone. On the sensor console, Data watched as the last trace of the dimensional anomaly that was Son Goku vanished from their universe. "He's gone," O'Brien whispered. On the view screen in Ops, the wormhole pulsed once, gently, and then was still. Silence, thick and heavy, lingered in Cargo Bay 2 for a full 10 seconds after the gateway collapsed. The only sounds were the hiss of overloaded circuits cooling and the ragged breaths of the exhausted engineers. A fine dust of spent singular lithium crystals drifted through the air like snow. Chief O'Brien slumped against his console, wiping grime from his face. He made it, I think. The energy signature at the moment of transition matched the resonance profile we were aiming for. Data, his uniform immaculate amidst the chaos, studied his tricorder. The portal achieved full coherence for 1.7 seconds before collapse, sufficient for transit. Probability of successful dimensional reintegration at the target coordinates, 87.4%. It is the most favorable outcome we could have hoped for. On the upper gantry, Commander Sisko let out a breath he felt he'd been holding for days. The weight of command, of the impossible choice he'd nearly been forced to make, lifted from his shoulders. He turned to Captain Picard beside him, who wore an expression of profound relief mixed with melancholy. "He's home," Sisko said quietly. "To his family," Picard agreed. "Where he belongs." But the universe, as it often did, had other plans. The transition was not like instant transmission. That was a smooth, conscious slide along threads of Kai. This was being sucked through a cosmic straw and violently spat back out. Goku tumbled through a kaleidoscopic void, his silver-blue aura the only thing preventing his atoms from being scattered across the dimensional walls. He felt the song of his home universe before he saw it. A booming, vibrant chorus of Kai that had been a silent background hum in the Star Trek reality. It was deafening, wonderful, and right. He burst back into reality with a sound like a thunderclap, high above the familiar blue marble of Earth. The portal snapped shut behind him, severing the connection completely. For a moment, he just hung there in the upper atmosphere, breathing in the thick, energy-rich air, feeling the sun, his sun, warm his skin. Life force, vibrant and abundant, flowed into him like water into a parched desert. The cellular cannibalization halted instantly. His body began to repair itself, drawing greedily on the ambient ki. A grin spread across his face, wider and more genuine than any he'd worn in weeks. He was home. He reached out with his senses, a skill that had been useless in that other place. He sought the familiar, brilliant flares of his friends and family. He found them instantly, clustered at Capsule Corporation, Chi-Chi's fierce, worried light, Gohan's powerful, scholarly calm, Goten's cheerful spark, Vegeta's blazing, prideful inferno, Bulma's sharp, intelligent glow. His heart soared. He oriented himself and prepared to teleport. That's when he felt the other signatures. Not friendly, not from Earth. Massive, malicious, and approaching fast. Dozens of them, from the edge of the solar system, moving at incredible speeds. Their ki was cold, mechanical, and hungry. It felt oddly familiar in its relentless, impersonal aggression. The Borg? No, this was different. But the intent was the same. Consumption. His Saiyan instincts, honed over a lifetime of defending this planet, screamed a warning. The celebration would have to wait. He flared his aura, not silver now, but the familiar, vibrant gold of a Super Saiyan. Power, real power, flooded his veins for the first time in what felt like ages. He wasn't at 85%. He wasn't harmonizing with foreign physics. He was Son Goku, and he was back at 100%. He shot toward the incoming threats, a golden comet against the stars. What he intercepted was a fleet, not of ships, but of beings. They were biomechanical horrors, humanoid in basic shape but twisted with glowing circuitry and weaponized appendages. They flew without ships, their eyes glowing with a collective green light. At their center was a larger entity, a floating, spiked sphere that pulsed like a mechanical heart, a command node. They sensed him coming. In unison, they stopped. The lead creature, its face a featureless plate of metal save for the glowing eyes, spoke. Its voice was a synthetic chorus, echoing the Borg but distinct. Scanning. Life form designation, Saiyan. Power level exceeds previous parameters. Biological distinctiveness is exceptional. Primary objective, harvest genetic material. Secondary objective, eliminate resistance. Harvest? Goku's voice was cold. Who are you guys? We are the Cell Juniors of the Neo-Android Imperative. The universe shall be perfected. You will be part of that perfection. Cell. The name sent a chill down Goku's spine, a ghost from a past he'd thought buried. But these weren't Cell's arrogant, playful offspring. These were something colder, more efficient, a perverse evolution. You're not welcome here, Goku stated, his golden aura blazing brighter. Leave, now. The response was a coordinated volley of hundreds of green energy beams, each capable of vaporizing a mountain. They converged on him from all directions, a sphere of annihilation. Goku didn't dodge, he expanded. A sphere of golden ki erupted from him, meeting the incoming barrage. The collision lit up the sky from Mercury to Mars. Energy scattered, burning up in the atmosphere or shooting off into deep space. When the light faded, Goku hovered, unharmed, a determined set to his jaw. "Okay," he said, "you had your chance." What followed was a one-sided purge. Goku moved among the Neo-Cell Juniors like a god of war. His time in the other universe, fighting with precision in confined spaces, had only refined his control. He didn't waste energy. A flick of his fingers sent a destructo disc slicing through a dozen drones. A casual backhand shattered another's reinforced chassis. He was faster than their sensors could track, stronger than their armor could withstand. But they learned, just as the Borg did. When he destroyed 10 with a Kamehameha wave, the rest adjusted their personal shields to dampen ki-based energy of that frequency. When he used physical strikes, they hardened their armor at the point of impact a microsecond before contact. They were adapting, and there were hundreds of them. More concerning, they weren't trying to kill him. They were trying to tag him, to get a sample. Needle-like probes shot from their wrists, seeking his skin. One grazed his arm, and he felt a sting followed by a numbing cold. He tore it out, seeing a droplet of his blood being sucked back into the drone. They wanted his DNA. The DNA of a Saiyan who had achieved godhood. A cold fury ignited within him. This wasn't just an invasion. It was a violation. They were scavengers, looking to loot the power he and his friends had worked so hard to achieve. He powered up further. Gold gave way to the shimmering, divine aura of Super Saiyan Blue. The temperature around him plummeted as his ki became so focused it stole heat from the very vacuum. Kaioken, times 20. Blue aura ignited with burning red. Space itself groaned under the pressure. The Neo-Cell Juniors recalibrated furiously, their command node pulsing with frantic light. Goku vanished. He reappeared in the heart of the fleet, a whirlwind of destruction. He moved so fast he seemed to be in 100 places at once, shattering drones with contemptuous ease. He targeted the command node, launching a god Kamehameha that burned with blue and red fire. The sphere activated a desperate last-ditch shield. The beam struck, and for a moment, held. Then the shield cracked, and the node was vaporized. The remaining drones froze in mid-maneuver. The collective light in their eyes flickered, then died. Without the central intelligence, they were just inert machines. They began to drift, powerless. Goku let the Kaioken fade, breathing heavily but exhilarated. The fight against a genuinely threatening, adaptive enemy had been clarifying. It had reminded him of who he was, of what he protected. But as he watched the debris field drift, his excitement turned to unease. Cell Juniors, an imperative. This wasn't a random attack. This was organized. And if there were scavengers out there using Cell's legacy, seeking the strongest DNA in the universe, oh no. His senses, now fully restored, shot outward, beyond Earth, beyond the solar system. He sought other familiar, powerful signatures across the cosmos. He found Frieza's force, bustling as usual. He found the remnants of the PTO, but he also found gaps, silences where there shouldn't be. And then he felt it, a tremor in the fabric of reality, faint but unmistakable. A dimensional tremor, not from the Star Trek universe, from somewhere else, somewhere close. The gateway he'd used hadn't just been a door home. It had been a loud, resonant shout across the dimensional barriers. And in the infinite multiverse, some things are attracted to shouts, to power, to unique genetic signatures. He had come home, but he hadn't come home alone. His journey had left a trail, a scent, and predators of a scale he had never imagined had caught a whiff. a new, profound understanding settled over him. His adventure in that other universe wasn't a closed chapter. It was a prologue. The rules had changed. Threats were no longer confined to a single reality. The walls between worlds were thinner than anyone knew. He needed to warn everyone. He needed to prepare. With a final, troubled look at the silent wreckage of the Neo-Cell Juniors, Goku focused his senses on Capsule Corporation and used instant transmission. He materialized in Bulma's backyard, right next to the patio where a startled barbecue was in progress. Chi-Chi dropped a plate. Gohan and Goten leaped to their feet. Vegeta snarled, his aura flaring on instinct. Bulma just stared, a drink halfway to her lips. "Goku!" Chi-Chi shrieked, tears instantly springing to her eyes as she ran forward and smacked him on the arm before crushing him in a hug. "Where have you been? Do you have any idea how worried we were? Whis said you vanished during training. We thought you were dead." I'm sorry," Goku said, hugging her back tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. "I got lost. Really, really lost. In another universe." There was a beat of stunned silence. "Another universe," Bulma repeated slowly, her scientific mind visibly overheating. "As in a parallel dimension with different physical laws? Prove it." Goku held up a hand. A tiny, perfect sphere of silvery blue subspace energy formed above his palm, humming with a sound that was fundamentally other. It didn't feel like ki. It felt like the hum of a starship's engine, the vibration of folded space. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. "What is that? That's not your energy." "It's not," Goku said, letting the sphere dissipate. "It's from there. I learned to use it. I had to, or I would have died." His expression grew serious, the weight of his discovery settling on his shoulders. "Guys, we have a problem. A big one. Bigger than Frieza, bigger than Cell, bigger than anything." He looked at their confused, concerned faces, his family and friends. He thought of Cisco, Picard, Worf, and their peaceful, fragile universe that had no idea what was coming. He thought of the Borg, the Dominion, the Romulans, and he thought of the Neo-Cell Juniors, scavengers from the dark places between realities. "The multiverse is real," Goku said, his voice quiet but carrying absolute conviction. "And it's not empty. And now, some of it knows we're here." The gravity of Goku's words settled over the backyard of Capsule Corp with the weight of a dying star. For a long moment, the only sound was the sizzle of vegetables on the grill, a bizarrely mundane counterpoint to the cosmic revelation. Vegeta was the first to break the silence. He stepped forward, his arms crossed, his usual scowl deepened into something more serious. "Kakarot, explain, in detail. Leave nothing out." So Goku did. Sitting at the patio table with a mountain of food Chi-Chi immediately piled before him, he told them everything. The training accident with Whis, the violent rift, the strange, empty universe. He described the Enterprise and its crew of explorers who fought with words and technology, the honorable Klingons who understood a warrior's spirit, the relentless Borg, the treacherous Romulans, and the ominous Dominion. He spoke of his failing power, the desperate training, the harmonization with subspace, and the final, mad gamble to come home. Bulma listened with the rapt attention of a scientist at the dawn of a new era, her fingers twitching as if already itching for a data pad. Gohan's face was a mask of scholarly concern, analyzing the implications. Goten's eyes were wide with adventure. Chi-Chi just held Goku's hand, her fear for him warring with her pride. When he finished, describing the Neo-Cell Juniors and the chilling dimensional tremor he'd sensed, the mood turned grim. "So, you're saying," Bulma summarized, her voice tight, "that by punching your way back home, you basically rang a giant dinner bell across multiple dimensions. And something that uses Cell's genetic template as a starting point. Heard it. And came looking for the chef, Vegeta growled. He looked at the sky, his Saiyan pride bristling at the thought of being hunted. Scavengers, seeking our power. It's worse than that, Gohan said, his tone grave. If they're an imperative, it suggests a purpose, a goal. Father said they wanted to perfect the universe. If they're harvesting the strongest genetic material they can find, across dimensions. He trailed off, the conclusion too terrible to voice. They're building an army, Piccolo stated, materializing from the shadows of the garden. He had arrived silently, drawn by the massive power signatures. An army of perfect warriors, compiled from the most powerful beings across all realities. His green face was set in hard lines. Your return was a beacon, Goku. You led them right to the most concentrated source of power in this, or perhaps any, universe. Us. The truth of it landed heavily on Goku's shoulders. In his desperation to get home, he might have endangered everything he loved. The cheerful, straightforward joy that usually defined him was gone, replaced by the solemn focus of a general assessing a war. We have to prepare, Goku said, standing up. And we have to warn the others, all of them. The others? Goten asked. The universe I was in, Goku said, his gaze turning inward. They have no idea about any of this. No Kai, no real concept of threats like this. If something from elsewhere broke into their reality, they wouldn't be able to stop it. They'd be assimilated, harvested, or destroyed. He thought of Captain Picard's diplomacy, of Sisko's stubborn courage, of Worf's honor. They were strong in their own way, but not like this. I made friends there. I can't just leave them defenseless. And how do you propose we do that? Vegeta snapped. You said the door closed behind you, or are you planning to punch another hole in reality? Maybe, Goku said, a spark of his old determination returning, but not yet, and not alone. He looked at Bulma. We need to study what happened. We need to understand the dimensional mechanics. If I did it once, accidentally, we can learn to do it on purpose, safely. Bulma's eyes lit up with a terrifying, brilliant fervor. A stable, traversable, interdimensional portal. Do you have any idea what that would mean? The energy requirements alone are... We have the energy, Goku interrupted gently. We have me, and Vegeta, and Gohan, and Broly, and Frieza if he's bored enough. We have the Dragon Balls. We have the resources of an entire planet, plus New Namek, plus the Galactic Patrol. He looked around at his family and friends. This isn't just about fighting the next strong guy anymore. This is about protecting everything, our universe, and maybe others. The scale of it was staggering. It was a call to arms greater than any they had ever faced. Not for a tournament, not for a planet, but for the integrity of existence itself. A council of war convened at Capsule Corp. Wayes and Beerus were summoned. The Galactic Patrol, led by Gekko and Maris, was alerted. Even Frieza, intrigued by the notion of a multiversal threat to his own ambitions, agreed to a temporary, suspicious ceasefire. In Bulma's largest lab, a new project began. Not a spaceship or a new type of senzu bean, but a dimensional resonance anchor, DRA. Using Goku's first-hand experience, the silvery subspace energy he could still generate, a lingering gift from his adaptation, and Whis' profound cosmic knowledge, they began to map the theoretical pathways between realities. Goku's unique experience became the key. He was the only being they knew of who had physically existed in two fundamentally different cosmic frameworks and retained his sense of self. His very cells held the memory of the other universe's frequency. Weeks turned into months. Training intensified, but it was different now. It wasn't just about raw power, it was about control, precision, and energy efficiency. Goku taught Vegeta and Gohan the basics of harmonizing their energy, of feeling for the substrate of reality itself. The concept was foreign to them. A musician trying to learn sculpture, but they were the best, and they learned. One evening, Goku stood on the lookout with Mr. Popo, gazing at the Earth below. The planet glowed with countless life forces, a beautiful, fragile jewel. He thought of a blue planet named Earth in another reality, just as fragile, protected only by ideals and courage. "You carry a great burden, son Goku," Mr. Popo said softly. "I know," Goku replied, "but I also made a promise to protect people, all people, no matter what universe they're in." Back in the Star Trek universe, life on Deep Space Nine returned to a semblance of normalcy, but with a lasting change. The incident with the Sky Warrior became legend. The Borg cube's retreat was analyzed for years, leading to breakthroughs in shield modulation. The Romulan propaganda campaign ultimately backfired as the truth of Goku's actions, protecting civilians, respecting Klingon honor, refusing Dominion lies, leaked out, becoming a story of hope and a cautionary tale about fear. Captain Picard's report to Starfleet Command concluded with an unusual personal addendum. "We encountered a force of nature with a conscience. He reminded us that power, in the hands of the compassionate, is not something to be feared, but something to be understood. The universe is stranger and wider than our model suggested. We would do well to remember that humility." In his ready room on the Enterprise, Picard kept a single, unusual memento on his desk. A child's drawing, given to him by the Bajoran girl, Yara. It showed a golden-haired figure protecting a starship from a green cube. A reminder. On DS9, Commander Sisko would often find himself staring at the wormhole, thinking not of the prophets, but of the warrior who had passed through it to a different temple altogether. He had a model of a bird of prey on his shelf, a gift from Commander Korath, inscribed with Klingon glyphs that read, "The enemy of my enemy is my brother. The defender of the weak is my king." And in the Gamma Quadrant, the founders of the Dominion added a new variable to their long-term calculations. The solid with godlike power had vanished, but the fact of his existence was now an eternal splinter in their philosophy of control. Order had been challenged by chaotic individual strength. It was a problem they would not forget. On Earth, in Universe 7, the work reached its first milestone. In a shielded chamber deep beneath Capsule Corpi, a ring of modified gravity generators hummed. At its center, Goku stood, his eyes closed. Around him stood Vegeta, Gohan, and Broly, their auras synchronized not in combat, but in focused emission, feeding a complex pattern into the generators. "Resonance is stable," Bulma shouted from behind a thick transparasteel screen, her eyes glued to a monitor showing waveforms that defied conventional physics. "The anchor is holding the local dimensional membrane at a supersaturated state." "Now, Goku," Whis called, his voice calm but intent. Goku opened his eyes. They glowed silver blue. He raised his hands, not in attack, but in creation. He poured forth the harmonized energy, not to tear, but to part. The space inside the ring shimmered, warped, and then clarified. It wasn't a view of the Star Trek universe. It was a window into the space between spaces, a swirling silver-blue corridor of stabilized subspace, a tunnel through the walls of reality. "Ah, bridge," Gohan breathed, his scholarly mind reeling. "A back door," Vegeta corrected, a fierce grin on his face. "One they won't see coming." Goku held the gateway open for 10 seconds, then let it gently collapse. He staggered, and Gohan was there to steady him. It had taken immense concentration, but it had worked. They had built a door. Now they needed to learn where it led and how to guard it. The path forward was clear. They would master this technology. They would train harder than ever before. They would unite every power in their universe, ready for a war that could come from anywhere, at any time. And Goku knew, with absolute certainty, that when the threat came, whether it was the neo-android imperative or something worse from the dark between worlds, he would not face it alone. He had his family, his friends, and the unwavering belief that had carried him through 2 universes, that protecting others was the strongest power of all. He was home, and he was ready to defend it all. The departure of Son Goku from the Star Trek universe left an indelible mark on both realities. In one, a civilization built on collective progress and idealism was forever altered by the encounter with an individual whose power defied their understanding, teaching them that strength and compassion are not mutually exclusive. In the other, a warrior returned with a sobering truth. The arena was infinite, and their greatest battles might still be ahead. Goku's journey was more than a collision of powers. It was a fusion of philosophies. He brought the Saiyan's pure-hearted pursuit of strength into a world of complex diplomacy, and in return, he gained a perspective that transcended mere combat. He learned that protecting something requires more than just being the strongest. It requires wisdom, allies, and sometimes the humility to accept help. The door between worlds may be closed for now, but the connection remains. In the quiet moments, Captain Picard might wonder about the warrior from the stars. While on a distant Earth, Goku trains under a familiar sun, his senses occasionally drifting to the subtle hum of subspace, a permanent reminder of friends in a far-off reality. The multiverse is vast and filled with wonders and terrors beyond imagining, but it is also connected by threads of courage, honor, and the shared desire to protect what is precious. One Saiyan's unexpected journey proved that even across the impassable gulf of dimensions, these things resonate. And sometimes, that resonance is enough to change everything.